Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Cornette Experience. Today, despite no cooperation whatsoever from the world of pro wrestling, we're going to have a fun, exciting show filled with thrills and hilarity for all. And then we'll talk about the wrestling. And joining me for all this and more, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you, a fiery voice, a cloud of smoke, and a hearty tally-ho, the great Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. I'm glad to hear you're in a good mood. We're going to have fun today. Fun wrestling talk on your show.
What makes you think I'm in a good mood?
You said something. You said happy or fun or
I could be putting up a brave front because the whole world is the shits and I'm miserable. See? But you wouldn't be able to know because I'm that kind of person. I can turn it on, baby. When the red light comes, do we have a red light here on this program and this apparatus? Or there's a green light on my microphone. I can't see it because of the dust cover. When it comes on, baby, I'm on. I'm up. I gotta come through for the people, for the cult of Cornette. Even though really I'm wallowing in a sea of misery and despair, gloom, despair, and agony, oh me. Deep, dark depression, excessive misery. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Gloom, despair, and agony, oh me. Like send out a special blessing to the late Archie Campbell. All right.
You really took the spirit out of this show.
Well, it's haunted. It's haunted. It's hainted, as Aunt Lola would say. It's got the haints in it. The wrestling industry is snake bit as a whole, I have come to realize. We're going to talk about a variety of things here today, but many of the current ones aren't going to be that up tempo. So we're going to balance that out with some classic shit that might be fun. But real quick, just from the listeners. I've been reading the writings of the listeners. They've written to me. And Alex Khalil, a longtime Cult of Cornette member, who always signs off with "fuck Vince Russo," so we know he's dedicated. He lost his grandfather recently. He had been in bad health since he fell off his lawnmower. He was 87 years old and broke his neck and had to go to the retirement home. But they loved listening to Jerry Clower because his grandfather was a big fan, and they would drive around when he was a kid. He was listening to his tape and etc. And then when he passed away, Alex started listening to Jerry Clower again. So, how? We want to send you sympathies on your grandfather, but again, and poor Jerry Clower, I just recently found out. You may have been the one to tell me passed away, didn't he? Like
Jerry Clower?
Yeah, like 20 years ago.
I was
going to
say, I mean, I don't remember talking to you about him anytime recently, but I don't remember him being alive anytime recently either.
Well, that's the thing is I think I got Randy Atchard on him too. But anyway, and Steve from Sacramento wondered if you could give a shout. This is a quote. I'm reading the email. If you could give a shout out to my wife, Katie, who's having a hysterectomy on March 18th. Without going into too much detail, her uterus has to go. It's done nothing but cause her crippling pain her whole life. We're both in our 30s. We don't want any kids, so we won't miss the damn thing anyway. But if you could wish her a successful surgery and a smooth recovery. And Steve, again, thank you. Well, why, Katie? You're the one who's going to have the smooth or the slick recovery or the greased. I wish you a slick path.
What are you saying?
Recovery, a slick, smooth is what I'm saying. Smooth recovery.
Greased.
Smooth, slick recovery. Well, there's going to need to, by necessity, there'll need to be some grease involved.
I like this email. But I don't want to say too much, but here's everything that's about to happen.
Well, anyway, and also, to both of you, we wish a happy and merry and joyful recovery over all of those things.
That's right. The show will get better.
What did we've just started?
Just
it
in
almost
general.
has to, doesn't it?
Just giving them something to look forward to.
Oh, so there's some hope they can cling to, like the carrot and the stick. They dangle the carrot, you get the stick. And I want to say something here at the top of the program real quick. There has been, for the last year or so, and I mentioned it last year, and we made a contribution, Stace and I did, back then, but there's been a GoFundMe for Dutch Mantell that his daughter Amanda has organized and is overseeing, because Dutch and his wife Kathy they've been married 50 something years, but they both had to move to assisted living over the last year, and they had a number of health issues. Kathy's not doing real well right now. I mean, you can go to, I'm not going to list chapter and verse their medical reports, but you can go to GoFundMe and type in, as we usually do, for Dirty Dutch Mantell, it'll come up. There's not two of them. And you can see some of the problems they've been having, but they're both in assisted living. Kathy's been back in the hospital, and then Dutch went to the hospital for a few days at least here just recently for a problem that medicine that the VA hospital had prescribed him. But a point that brings up, that's something we didn't mention the last time. Dutch is a veteran. He was in Vietnam before he became Dutch Mantell. And Amanda has still had problems with the Veterans Administration authorizing this or agreeing to pay for that or whatever. And they've still got a lot of out-of-pocket costs. If your government tells you to go somewhere and let people shoot at you, should you have to worry about any health-related bills and issues when you're 70 fucking 6 years old or whatever he is? Yes, he is. But anyway, if anybody wants to check out the GoFundMe, I just want to let people know it's still there, and there's still a need for it for the family. Brian, there may be another GoFundMe related to wrestling, just as we were about to go on the air and do this program. Don't you love my 60s radio colloquialisms? We were about to go on the air. We were about to start this fucking show, and we were suddenly alerted to something I guess just happened like last night as you and I are sitting here, and they've not become our whipping boy over the last few weeks, but it's come up. But apparently now people online are bringing attention to the fact that last night, I guess, in an Ohio Valley Wrestling TV taping or whatever they were doing over there for whatever means of distribution, a referee went into a fucking seizure as bad as I've ever seen a person have a fucking seizure, including all these, boxing knockout videos. And the fucking guys in the ring just kept having the match around him until like people started realizing, oh shit, that guy's having a fucking seizure. And people started getting in the ring to do what I don't know. But apparently this is something that just happened. And as I said, I don't know who any of these people were in this match. I've never met any of them. I haven't been in that building in a decade, as the kids say. And I don't know who's on site running this fucking dog and pony show. But the blokes over at West Faversham better have deep pockets, because if this ain't a lawsuit, I've never seen one, either from this kid or from his family, because we don't know yet. All we've seen is the video that's been put out. We don't know how the fuck he currently is.
And by the way, the referee's name is Dallas Edwards, apparently a longtime referee locally in Louisville, and also Stephen P. News number is 87750-STEVE, if you hear this, Dallas.
I mean, we've talked about, and this is again, for any of these indie groups or wrestling schools or whatever the fuck. Some of them often become, well, all these people want to be wrestlers, but they shouldn't be pro wrestlers, but they want to do it. So everybody's nice to each other and everybody gets to live their dream. And, oh, we'll find a place for little Pismo over there, even though he's 5'1" and 110 pounds. We'll put him in the ring with guys that weigh 3 times as much as he does to be moving around at least. Even if he's not wrestling, he can be a referee, whatever. And much of the audience for these regular weekly local extravaganzas that happen across the country, I'm not just picking on OVW, even though I'm describing it currently, consists of the same people who come because they know the guys and girls are they're into the thing. But for fuck's sake, I'm not even talking about dropping kayfabe and you know, Cornette wouldn't tell people to drop kayfabe just because the guy got potatoed. No. If anybody wants to go and watch this video, which I assume is going to be circulating because we found it, it was on TikTok or the guy's Facebook, and the guy on Facebook said, I'm not taking this shit down because fuck these guys. This is bullshit. And by the way, it's already on TikTok.
And apparently they're trying to get it taken down, obviously.
Well, one would think because it's going to be evidence in the fucking court case. But the point where I was going with that was, if everybody wants to get together and all be friends in a group, and okay, you can't let people that are not physically equipped to do certain things. In this case, what caused this, it wasn't like I'm pretty sure this guy has no prior history of epilepsy, because I can tell you this is the biggest concussion seizure that I've ever seen on camera in my fucking life. I've never seen anything like this in person. It was scared the shit out of me. But when this big, whoever the fuck guy number one was, is going to dive off the top rope with a crossbody or a phenomenal forearm or whatever he was trying to do, and the other guy moves out of the way, he's supposed to wipe out the referee. And this was as bad of a wipeout as I've ever seen. This 6 foot, whatever, 200, whatever pound fucking guy just blistered this fucking referee in the middle where he went down. And if this had been on the WWF, I'd say it would have been a fight in the locker room, except that this referee would have not been allowed to take this kind of thing because the size of him was ridiculous. That if this guy, if he was supposed to just hit him on the way by, then that may be one thing. But if this guy cross-bodied this fucking little referee, and not only would have, I'm sure, broken some ribs if it hadn't been for the fact that his head hit so violently on the back of the mat that it knocked him completely fucking unconscious. And he's laying there motionless. And then the guy that landed on him crouches over him, and you could tell he's saying like, oh shit, sorry. What's the guy's name? The referee?
Dallas Edwards.
Sorry, Dallas, you okay? Well, he's obviously not getting an answer because the guy is fucking unconscious, and he's still there asking until the other guy that he's wrestling comes and picks this guy up and says, okay, here we go. And then he leaves him. And then, I mean, it's blatantly obvious this guy's not moved. Okay, they might be thinking, well, we knocked out Dallas. Then he starts turning over sideways and his leg stiffens up and starts shaking in the air. And his arm, and I mean, I can go back to the video that have been watching several times over the, let's see what the timing is on this. Brian, hold on here a second, because it's got the little time counter at the bottom. So the crossbody happens at 2 fucking seconds. And he's saying, you okay? You okay? And then the other guy gets him and he picks the guy up. They do a drop behind spot and a spin kick. And now the other guy lands right next to the referee and gets tangled up in his leg. It is like, get out of the way. Now the guy's leg is up in the air shaking and he's just seizing. And the big fat guy in the red comes in and body slams the other guy that just fucking killed the referee. And they're now the guy's arms and legs are flailing. And they're all just fucking wandering around. The other guy on the apron is looking at him. The announcers are still calling it. Now the guy in red holds the guy. So the bald guy pulls the referee out of the way and kicks him back-footed so that he can get out of the way of the back fist spot while the guy's arms are stuck up in the air like roadkill, shaking. That was at 56 seconds. And then people start, but the camera won't shoot this part because somebody in the master control has said, don't shoot this. He's dying or whatever. But you can see people going toward the guy to start to help him, and then the clip shuts off. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And the announcers were calling. The announcers picked up on, oh boy, Dallas seems hurt, etc. Number one, they got 100 people in this fucking audience. And nobody would be talking about this television show that they just produced at all, except for the fact that they may have killed somebody on it. And there was no reason why, when the guy went down, the other guy was checking on him and couldn't get anything. When they continued, let's see, what could have happened? One of the other two stupid motherfuckers could have got in there and said, look, he's not moving. Somebody from the back could have cued somebody to go. The cameraman is wired. The floor camera guy, he's standing right there. Put your camera down, tell him to fucking stop. The announcers, I assume, are wired. They used to be. Somebody from the back could have given them authority. Stop it. And if I had been the announcer, as I was on this program in a previous era, I would have seen within 10 seconds, stop it. But they're watching, and none of the people, nobody's even stood up in the crowd. They have killed this audience with this subpar amateur bullshit to the point where nobody even cares whether the guy's dying or not. Or like, what? Is this part of the show? Nobody in the building noticed for 54 seconds or whatever that they'd killed this fucking guy. Hopefully not, but they tried their best. Not only did the guy land on him and give him the concussion and or whatever spinal neuro problems that has manifested itself here, then they kept on working when he's laying there immobile, and then when he starts moving like a possum that's just been run over in the middle of the fucking street, this one idiot drags him out of the way and kicks him sideways while his hands are contorted in the air, like, and he's shaking. Get out of the way. I got to do my fucking finish. They don't need Stephen P. New. A small town bird lawyer can take this video right there. If anybody in this whole fucking mess is insured, and own the insurance company.
You know, that's one of the things, too. We're not talking about this happening at some random independent show or for an independent promotion or, you know, for a wrestling school. We're talking about OVW, which made a big deal out of being accredited as a training facility.
Well, no, hold on. They were accredited by the state as a trade school. So that means, well, they're getting experience with camera positions or with television production or with whatever the fuck too, as well as all these things. You can't accredit somebody to teach this fucking 5'3", 120-pound guy. Well, now that I see the guy that landed on him, he ain't that big either. Now that I see him next to two grown adults, because the guy that fucking drugged the dying referee out of the way to do his spot is twice the size of both of them. What the fuck? There's nothing about being state accredited that prepares you for this instance. I've never seen anything this bad from anybody getting hurt in the ring. I've seen a few of those boxing videos or the fucking, the thing where they run headfirst into each other in Slovakia or whatever goes on. But no, I've never seen anybody in a ring act like that in my life. But the point is, for almost a minute, nobody could figure out the partner that's kneeling on the apron of the ring over there, fucking looking in like, well, should I mention this? What the fuck is he doing? Wherever this happens in Romania or, Pittsburgh or OVW or wherever. These are the stupidest people I've ever seen. And when you get in over your fucking head, people have laughed at me when I said we used to have the training camps, we would take applications because we wouldn't let people that were not physically equipped to do certain things in the ring to do certain things. Brian Hildebrand makes this poor kid look like Lex Luger. And I'm not trying to say he should never have an opportunity to live his dream. Don't do spots with a goddamn. We never heard a referee in 6 fucking years. If it was a referee bump, it was a shoulder tackle, or he kicked off out of the fucking roll up, or oh my gosh, not. I'll dive off the top rope and squash you.
Yeah, what was the plan?
I don't know what the plan was. He did a shoot
crossbody to someone who clearly couldn't catch him.
And it starts so quickly with the setup and the little fucking TikTok graphics on the screen. But the big guy that later on kicked the hurt referee out of the way pulled the referee into the move that the guy was doing off the top rope. So it was planned part of the festivities. Heel pulling the referee in the way of this fucking thing. But what he was going to hit him with, he looks like he's doing a phenomenal forearm, but he ended up giving him a shoot crossbody where he landed with all of his weight on this fucking guy in the most devastating way possible.
And his head just smacks right against the ground. Jim, I just found extended footage. I'm curious how they covered this. Apparently this was a Creator Sports Network simulcast.
Oh, good Lord.
So whoever that was, this went out live to whatever the OVW audience is. So here's from the simulcast.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When all these fucking investors got into it, then things got a lot more glorious. Creator Sports live stream of something that 100 people of their immediate friends and family came to watch. And they pretty much have given ample evidence to the legal authorities should this young man's family want to get pissy about it, to do it in front of what, 316 people around the world on the internet. I'm sorry, go ahead. I get pissed off.
And I can't blame you. Again,
go ahead.
This was your company, this was your building, and this is
don't blame me.
This is what's happening there now.
You know what? I wish Danny Davis Danny Davis would have been in there within 16 seconds and fucking cussing at everybody. Call an ambulance.
Well, the video appears after this is all happening. They keep the cameras on, so the wrestler that kind of kicked the referee over, he's sitting on the bottom turnbuckle in the corner. It's the only corner they're showing, and you see various people kind of with their heads close to the mat. And obviously, they're upset about what they're seeing, but we're not seeing it. But let's go to the audio and just hear how it was covered.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a medical situation obviously taking place in the ring right now. Obviously, things kind of happen. So for the safety of our performers, we're gonna stop down here. And I tell you what, we'll see you Sunday, March Mayhem. We're gonna go ahead and go off the air at this point. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you Sunday. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
And that's how they went off the air.
Well, and again, in all seriousness, we hope this young man's all right. He
Absolutely.
did nothing wrong. He may have been the only person involved in this that did nothing wrong. But it's become a fantasy camp environment, not only in OVW, but in all of these, they all want to mimic and copy the big promotions in terms of what they do and how they try to present everything. But in doing so, they come off as ridiculous, low rent copies, and they're still trying to do all the dangerous shit that even the fucking professionals get hurt doing. And the announcer there, I don't know who the announcer was. He sounded like he was 17 years old. It's just, if you want to teach the basics and the storytelling and play wrestling, and everybody gets a chance to run the camera and be part of the crew and rah-rah, then somebody has to put a cap on them as far as what they're trying to do in the physicality or the risk element or the dangerosity or however the fuck you want to phrase it. Body slams and hip tosses in the ring and backdrops, stuff like that's okay. That's part of wrestling. And if everybody is of goddamn legitimate age and halfway decent physical condition where you think they're not going to snap in half or have a heart attack, then basic local pro wrestling, fine. But when you're letting people who dream of doing something more than they ever legitimately actually need to be doing it, start fucking doing all this shit, then it's no, at some point you have to tell people, look, if you want to be here and have fun, fine, but you don't need to be doing certain shit. Or who is there to oversee this shit when something like that goes wrong? If it was my days, I was the boss as well as the announcer. I could have said in 5 seconds, stop that. Danny Davis was the owner as well as the producer on headset in the control room. He could have said in 5 seconds, stop that. What was the chain of command here? Who is in charge on these tapings if something like this happens? Or is everybody left up to let somebody else be the first one to say it because I don't have the authority? The announcers, they're just part of the crew like the wrestlers and the referees. Even the cameraman's there watching this fucking guy. Can't he say something to anybody? That's why I'm saying, who's in charge? Is Al Snow off on a meeting with the people in West Faversham? Who does he leave in charge? What the fuck is going on around here? Anyway, I just started all over again, didn't I?
Well, it's one of the problems. When you were in OVW, you had Danny Davis, you had Rip Rogers, various other people who would come and help, who had to adhere to the protocol that you guys set up.
Well, but not even adhering to a protocol like it's against our better judgment, but they'd want us to stop this when this guy's, swallowing his tongue.
But you know what I mean.
Common sense. It was professionalism. It was And again, a lot of people say, oh, Cornette would get mad at him if they broke kayfabe in the middle of a match. Not when it's obvious like this. Everybody should immediately go, whoa, whoa. And somebody besides the wrestlers, unless one of them's gimmick is a goddamn EMT, should be sliding in there a lot quicker than that to help this fucking guy out. That's what it's not, and this would be for any other independent promote. I won't say any other. I've seen some Lollapaloozas, but any legitimate wrestling school or independent promotion that I've been involved with over the past number of years that was on the ball would have had something going on before this. It was everybody just afraid to be the one to say, oh golly, stop the show.
Well,
what were you going to say?
I don't even know. That's the latest OVW news. Just, it's a sad thing. Not even just OVW, just the state of independent wrestling and the wrestling training schools. And it's hard for the business when there's no foundation, whether it's a foundation of knowing how to work or a foundation of just having voices who are going to tell you things you don't want to hear that are right. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of that. And you question the people that run these schools and these systems, what they know and understand, even if they've been around for a long time. It's just a sad state of affairs. There aren't a lot of options, and I mean, this is as minor league could be, and hopefully this guy sues the shit out of everyone involved. They all deserve it.
And you know, I just thought of something for the sake, well, people saying, well, that's small time stuff. Remember in AEW, it was like 6 years ago when they first started that they knocked the guy out. And then
from the Dark Order,
grabbed him by the leg and drug him out of the way so they could keep their match going, and they got heat for that.
The Dark Order, that's right. That was at Daly's place.
Okay, and for people who remember that and may have seen that, but haven't seen this thing we've just been talking about, this is like 12 times worse. This is a goddamn.
Oh no! If this happened on AEW TV, there would be no. I think Tony Khan and AEW would be getting killed from everyone right now.
If this happened on AEW TV, they'd be getting canceled, and or Shad Khan would be sued into bankruptcy, and that's it. Again, it can happen. Jesus Christ, this guy he was too small, and the guy, even if the guy was going to nail him and go past him, it's not a spot you do with these fucking young. Point being, this is intricate Flair Steamboat kind of timing for two kids in a wrestling ring kind of fucking execution. But they were still in a ring. And he was just coming off the top rope on AEW on a given, or in WWE now, on a given television program. How many times do you see a guy coming off the top rope onto the floor and they're taking the bumps? And I know they got the pads, but there's the metal rail or the wooden desk. And multiply that over and over and over and see one of these days. Well, now I don't even want to just mention my ring-worn stuff that's going to go on sale at JimCornette.com. But, well, this is the spot that I had for it originally in the program before we found out that this poor guy got his bell rung, as they say. But the bell will ring on March 21st. You'll be able to log on to JimCornette.com and see the ring-worn and used type of things where I've cleaned the closet out. We've been talking about this past few weeks. My last rackets that I have actually used, I don't hit people over the head anymore. My legitimate eyeglasses that I've worn at various eras. I got a nice combo where my TNA trading card and the picture, the tie that I was wearing in the picture on the TNA trading card. You get both of those, shirts and jackets and ties and all kinds of fun for all. And you can see the listings because each of these things obviously is one of a kind. So you can see the listings on the 21st and scope out what you might be interested in. And then the sale starts Saturday, April 4th at noon Eastern. And then you're just trying to elbow people out of the way to get what you want, folks. But that's the fair way to give everybody a look before we throw open the floodgates, Brian, and let everybody have a piece of, you know, you could actually theoretically, if you keep these things in the future, you could clone me.
Oh, boy.
Because
Isn't that something to look forward to?
Well, even though they have been cleaned, there's still some, various DNA from my interaction with these items. So if you keep them long enough in a plastic bag, sooner or later you could have me.
Would you like there to be a humanoid Jim Cornette, like they're making an AI humanoid Antonio Inoki to teach the future children, the future generations?
Only if he does my bidding. Because see, then
he has to urinate on people's graves. What does that mean?
Well, no. See, if there was a humanoid Jim Cornette, he could do a lot of things that Jim Cornette would like to do, but Jim Cornette, the human, not the oid, don't want to get caught and busted for, and paid a penalty for, due to boarding with the warden and live on the bounty of the county, whereas the humanoid, what the fuck's 50 or 75 years in jail for him? See?
I really wish Bobby Heenan was around just so he can call someone a humanoid and they could finally say, "You're right. You figured me out.
I am a copy.
Tagada, I am the Antonio Inoki humanoid. I didn't touch that money. It was Shinma. Go talk to him. I'll be in the diet."
And we're not talking the caloric diet, but the senatorial diet. How come all of the fucking people in the Japanese diet look like they're in good shape, but all our people in a Senate are a bunch of fathead fucks?
Vince, I gave you $1 million. Where is Hogan? I wanted Hogan. I like this. We can get weeks and weeks. If they really introduce this robot, this could be the greatest thing for the podcast ever.
And then also does he come with when they marketed my figures, we said it comes with whack and racket. Well, does he come with a slapping hand, extra big right hand for slapping?
I guess it would have to, now that you think of it. I didn't even think about that aspect of it. It would have to give the true Inoki learning experience, slap people in the face.
Yeah, so it's got to come from around the sides. So they got to refigure the shoulder joint, and then it can just slap the fuck out of all the other action figures. But Brian, everything that we've just been talking about, it comes down to communication. If you want to be able to tell the robot, android, humanoid what your commands are, what to say, what to do, you got to communicate. If things go wrong in a wrestling ring, it would be good if people could communicate. Because what we have today in society is a failure to communicate. People don't listen. And that's why our friends at Raycon have not only provided the essential open earbuds for you to be able to listen to important things in your life, whether it's music or whether it's podcasts or whether it's instructions from the booker, but also the essential open earbuds, Brian, still leave you aware of the world around you. For, I've talked about a falling safe landing on you, talked about a railroad train running over you. I didn't think about a flying wrestler wiping you out.
Yeah, why these examples? I'm not so sure. Ricky Steamboat never killed a referee. These are indeed essential open earbuds. And, more importantly, knowing that the humanoid android revolution is coming, you're going to want to listen to your favorite music. That'll be one of the things to relax you as the apocalypse is upon you. But you're also going to want to be aware of your surroundings.
You're going to want to be aware of what's going on around you when you're sitting there in your 6x8 cubicle and the humanoids and the AI have taken over the world and you're merely being kept around for purposes of harvesting sperm for the worker drones.
AI.
Then you can listen. The AI.
Antonio Inoki.
He's going to be in charge.
Yeah, it all makes sense.
And he'll come and once a day, he'll come around and slap everybody, keep them awake. But
that's
folks,
right,
anyway,
that's right, Jim.
If you listen to earbuds, why not these? Because these cost half as much as those Fancy Dan brands, but they're just as good. It's just that the Fancy Dan brands have a lot of overhead and expenses, whereas the Raycon Essential Open Earbuds just have jackoffs like me and Brian talking about them.
Fancy Dan sucks.
Fancy Dan sucks. A big old donkey dong. open ear design, so you hear your music and the world around you both at the same time. Although if you take your thumbs and jam these in real tight, you don't have to hear your wife.
Yeah, don't do that. And again, speaking of wives, me and my family, we love our Raycon.
My shadow.
We love our earbuds. I know that Stacy is a big fan of the essential open earbuds. And of course, I have mine in my hand. I stole it back from Suzanne, who stole it from me before she got a chance to open it. I have it right back here.
Well, and now whose turn is it to steal them? And what about that multi-angular hook? You know, you can just easily switch that thing around and just hang it off of everything, your nose or whatever dangles on you.
You should just not do that.
And
as instructed, as advised,
it's also, you can connect to multiple devices, especially if you've got that multi-angular hook. And you can switch between your phone and laptop without repairing them every time. Every time you got to say, phone meet laptop meet phone. They got to have a conversation, go out to
that is
coffee
a pain in
or
the
whatever.
Neck. That is a legit pain in the neck to have to constantly repair stuff. That is a pain in the neck.
Well, I'm repairing shit around here all the time. Fucking all kinds of shit gets broke and needs to be repaired around here. And there's 36 hours of battery life too, fella. I'll just have you know. So right now, again, folks, it's springtime, which means something, I don't know what, to the purpose that I'm speaking of now, but it's springtime. So refresh your routine this spring with the essential open earbuds, and you can listen to things spring up. Go to buyraycon, BUYRAYCON.com/JCE open, and you're going to get 20% off. So that way, if you buy 6 pair of earbuds, you'll get them for the price of 5 because you're getting 20% off. It's simple mathematics. BuyRaycon.com/JCE open, and you're going to get 20% off. And then with slight modifications, you can tune into other radio frequencies and occasionally either hear strategic air commands or...
No, what is, again, we're at the very, very end of this.
Well, I won't go any further. I'll leave that as a... I'll leave that as a cliffhanger for next week.
It is not a cliffhanger. You can't hear any aviation commands or whatever it is that Jim said, but what you can do is hear your favorite podcasts, your favorite songs, give them to your family, buy them for yourselves. They are there. They are great. We like them. We use them here. BuyRaycon.com/JCE open.
You know, Strategic Air Command... it's got an acronym, SAC. So see, you just want to tune into SAC on your buds. All right, let's talk about AEW. We've killed enough time. Let's get through this so we can talk about something fun. But they tried again this past Wednesday, and they were in beautiful downtown San Jose, California, Brian. And you know what that means? That means they were right down the road from Campbell by the Sea, and Uncle Dave was front row. I thought he was trying to disguise himself, and maybe, you know, like you see on the Army movies when they're going to be creeping around at night, they smear mud on their face. He put this dark mud all over the top of his head, so I thought he was trying to keep from reflecting light so that he wouldn't be seen. But then somebody told me that was just his hairdo.
Well, his hair dye, I guess you would say. It is jet black.
Oh, his hairdo died.
You know, naturally, it becomes a story when Dave Meltzer appears ringside at AEW, and he did several times here. At one point, it looked like he was having a face-to-face showdown with Okada, and then you realize Okada didn't even know he was there. He was just walking by. But he was sitting next to a lot of seemingly, it looked like some younger people, and his hair was darker than theirs were.
Well, you know, that's a byproduct of a lot of tanning time out on the beach there. He's always been a California guy. So the sun brings out the pigment in his hair. It gets darker as he gets older. You didn't know that?
I didn't know that. I grew up on the beach. I didn't know that.
Well, you're on the other side of the beach. See, it works an opposite for you.
What does that mean?
See, you're on the East Coast beach. You start out dark and get light. He's on the West Coast beach. He starts out light and gets dark. It's simple physics.
Just simple. Yeah, I completely understand it.
Because you're going all the way around the world.
Clearly. This is like Hogan.
Clearly. All right, when they were missing somebody. Either the Meltzer situation also coincided with the first time in forever that Sockface Excalibur has missed a television broadcast. I'm wondering if is this a Billy Jack Haynes and Chris Adams situation between Excalibur and Meltzer? Because it just seems odd.
I don't know exactly why.
This?
I don't know if he's ill or what it is, but he wasn't there. I will say it was, I think, the best commentary they've had on Dynamite in a long time. And Shivani's still terrible, but with Riccaboni, it was very interesting. He's not as unbearable as he is with Excalibur. And maybe it's because of the mile a minute selling you micro machine style of commentary. But with Riccaboni, the fact that there were three of them there, you weren't overwhelmed by the talking. I thought it was pretty good.
Obviously, Riccaboni is somewhat more polished and professional than Sockface, but also the problem that they still had Tony do the welcome, and bless Tony, but his voice is shot. So he just, I don't think he ought to be the lead voice. And Ian has a pulse and a vocabulary. I believe they should, he should replace Excalibur with no doubt. But anyway, it was nice to hear. And Bryan Danielson is an adult, but he's an adult that is just way too pleased with what's going on. And Tony is a senior citizen that just chimes in every once in a while because he probably really doesn't even like this shit, but he just doesn't know what to say. Ian is a younger, still polished professional announcer, but is younger with the hip kids and at least can speak to this generation of people.
Younger with the hip kids.
Younger with the hip kids. All right. Anyway, so again, first off on the show, we get Moxley in some formation of his contingent, but the whole group was standing out in an empty courtyard and then just walked up the steps into the building. It's a beautiful old building there in San Jose. Been hosting wrestling for nearly 100 years, but it looked like the front steps of the courthouse or a library. And there was nobody outside again. There's no, it's why at this point, can't they just have their own locker room, but put them in the fucking building? Is there a reason why they just stand out on the side of the street?
And it doesn't have the same impact when the sun is out.
Yeah, in the daylight.
Just middle of the day.
It's just like there's Moxley and his group of homeless wrestlers. They just stand around on the side of the street in the daytime.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same impact when you're like, man, it's only 5 p.m. What are they doing so early?
So anyway, it was Dick the Boozer and Claudio against Chia. And our friend, I'm not going to call him Take a Shit anymore. I'm just going to call him Tack.
Tack?
Tack, short for Takeshita.
All right.
Tack.
I thought you were going to Take. I mean, you made Take your thing, and now you're just completely abandoning the Take a Shitta part of the thing that you introduced into popular culture.
Well, I was just going to shorten it up, but okay, I'll stick with Take. I just thought it would be nice to give him a nickname, Tack. But again, and let me say one more thing about Ian Riccaboni. Now that I put him over and praised him and petted on him and everything, as Teeny would say, was he embalmed on camera? Did the makeup, Ian? Unless you are sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber or something, get out in the fucking sun or do something. I don't know what to say. But it that seemed a bit, he had just a touch of whatever happened to Baby Jane to him. So I'm just telling you. It was my only criticism.
He's a big fan of pre-death cryogenics.
yeah, just so the horsemen here, Moxley's group and the Don Fallis family supposedly have a big rivalry, right? Oh, it's the Don's family and the Death Riders, whatever their fucking name is. They have a match every week. But here's the question, Brian. Do they ever do angles to build to a match or promos to sell a match? Or do they just do a different fucking match every week?
Yeah, because it's been a while since you said, didn't we see this last week? And that was weeks ago at this point. They do a different match and they never do real angles unless you consider, for instance, the post-match here to be an angle.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing. You can't say it's an angle when every match ends with an angle, then it just becomes part of the match. It's not like anything stands out. They no matter what the finish is at AEW, chances are the heels are going to get back up and beat the shit out of them. And then somebody else is going to run out but there's no like, we did a shocking, surprising, out of the ordinary thing to these people. And now for the next week or two, we're going to crow about it, but then they're going to come back and say they're pissed about it. And some way or another, we're going to work into some kind of match that favors them. And we're going to advertise that heavily for a week or two or 3 or 4 if it's on pay-per-view. Or just having goddamn fucking endless matches every week amongst different combinations of the 5 guys in the one group and the 12 guys in the other group.
And can you give me a simple answer as to why do they have a problem with each other?
I don't know.
What is the root of their problem? Why do they have this issue?
Well, see, I don't know why that people just started cheering Moxley again because he just started saying complimentary things about the company on interviews.
No, because he started losing matches.
Well, and also he finally got beat for a while. They didn't want to see that. But there was no change of heart or philosophy, and so we don't know what he was really trying to do when he was trying to take over AEW, and now we don't know why unless he's mad that there's more people in the other group and they're trying to take over AEW. I guess that's a catch-all reason. But anyway, this match, 20 minutes into the show before it's over with, Moxley and Take are laying out on the floor somewhere, and Claudio's just wrestling the masked fellow. And then they do a spot where Hechichichia almost runs into the referee, but both of them fakely react. Chia just stops and freezes like a Central Park mime, while the referee over-exaggeratedly puts his arms over the top of his head and bends over. And then when the Chia turns around, Claudio pokes him in the eye and small packages him 1, 2, 3, and the fans booed it because it was so obvious that it was they bullshit booed it. Because they're like, no, bullshit. And they always do that because these referee deals that they do the opposite. Instead of legitimately laying the referee out and hurting him, they do shit that's so obviously phony that the referees have to overreact to. Remember a couple shows ago, it was MJF with Kevin Knight. He just reaches up and pushes the referee's leg with his foot, and the referee spins away and hangs himself on the rope and sells his shoulder. And or they do the spot, even the WWE the other night, where they almost ran into the referee twice and then actually ran into the referee. So you can almost run into the referee for a little spot. But then if you almost run into the referee and then run into the referee, you've got the people watching to see if you're going to run into the referee. And then they're going to shit on it because it's going to look phony. And so in this case, they're doing this tease thing. Jesus H. Christ. It never looks good. The referees are not, let's say none of these guys are Tommy Young, but it's also, we didn't ask him to do overly contrived bullshit. If you want to flummox a fucking referee, do a fucking kick out where he gets momentarily flummoxed and poke a guy in the eye. Or if you want to bump him, just move and let the other guy shoulder tackle him. Those are fairly foolproof. So they booed the finish. Then Archer and Davis came in and stopped Claudio, but Moxley decided to get back in the ring and they stopped him. And I swear to God, this was some of the fakest, the most just lackluster, blasé heat, quotation marks, heat that I've ever seen. And then
everyone's blows looked like shit.
Oh, just girls.
Lance Archer with his cast. Oh my God.
Girls fighting in the, recess is what it looks like. And it's embarrassing. And then the heels all tried to get Take to hit Moxley with a chair while they held him. But he thought about it, and he threw it down, didn't want to do it. And then he was telling the other ones not to do it. And the announcer saying, yes, he said that he wants to win this thing on his own and blah, blah, blah. But they had a boring argument pantomime while Moxley was just laying there forever. And where was the rest of his fucking gang that was out with him in the empty courtyard? Where was fucking Useless? And where was the other fucking guy? And where was...
I checked the toilet.
And then they when Take a shit and finally said, no, you guys go ahead and leave. But then he looks down and makes the stagey belt motion and points pointedly at Moxley laying there, and then he leaves with him. And it was, not only did I think it was awkward, but the people were like, well, is something going to happen? We're not sure what happened. So that was that.
We've seen a lot of the conflicted mute Takeshita over the last few months with him and Okada, and now this. There have been a lot of conflicted, it seems like the babyface turn is coming moments with the Callis family over the years. Ospreay, who just nicely asked to leave and was told, yeah, sure, why not? And then, of course, that was just their way of setting it up. Omega. Now this is building to something. Yeah, again, it was pretty embarrassing when the heel group ran in there. Lance Archer, who he's just randomly there at times, and other times he's not there. And he runs in there and he's throwing the worst looking things, and he's using, if it's because he's wearing a cast that he can't throw a punch, then he shouldn't. But again, I don't know what they were.
Well, but the thing is that's why he was. That was part of the heat. I'm hitting him with this hard cast, So you hit him with a hard cast. Well, then in that case, then you get in the middle of the ring and everything else stops, and you grab the guy, and you draw back, and you one that looks good, and then everybody can be shocked and react to it instead of just part of this endless parade of meaningless motion.
Well, we're back to a Moxley opening match. Right, last week was the big break. We had MJF versus Kevin Knight, and now we're back to Moxley opening up the show.
I think MJF pulled strings to say, let me get on first before they spoil everything in the world and then get out of here so I don't get any on me. But now we're back to Moxley being put in that position. Even he's going to get some on him.
I'm going to get it all on me.
At least he gets out before the quarter hours start dropping. I wish we still got those. All right, moving on. The next contest was for the TNT title. Kyle Felcher defending against Hong Kong Phooey. What is Tony's fascination with these? He spent 5 years shoving the guy that sticks his hands in his pockets down our throat. Was never funny, was never entertaining, was a joke and an insult. And Tony pushed him and dressed as him as Halloween or at Halloween. Is this the next mascot that he's going to push to the moon despite all common sense aside that couldn't get over if you filled him up with helium? Who is he going to dress as? If Tony dresses as Spitball Bailey for Halloween this year, we're going to have our answer on what's going on here.
By the way, Tony, you should totally do that and take lots of pictures, and please do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to.
Hey, guys, I know all about speedballs.
Anyway,
I could be 8-ball.
Kyle came out wearing 2 belts, and he's in the group with old O'Boring, and he came out with him, and he was wearing 2 belts. And they rang the bell on this thing, and obviously, I'm sorry, Kyle still has potential and a future if he can get out of the middle of this mess, but I ain't watching, as it turned out, 19 minutes of spitball for anybody. And that's what they got to play indie wrestler for 19 minutes. Kyle is a supposed main eventer and future one of the pillars of their company. Did they give up on pillars? One of the future top main event fucking superstars of their company.
Yeah, a few of those pillars fell down.
Yeah, but now this is what they're building, and he's big, and he's got the belts and blah, blah, blah. And he, in 19 minutes, couldn't beat Sweet Polly Purebred. And then, at that point, Okada jumps up with a screwdriver. Shouldn't it be a disqualification if your cornerman or manager jumps up with a fucking screwdriver?
Yes, it should be. Yes.
I mean, it used to be, hey, draw the referee. I'd jump up on the apron. He'd come over, get down. You must get down. If I've got a fucking screwdriver. So the referee goes there. Davis runs down. So now it takes Kyle, 2 of his cohorts, to beat, again, this minute little offensive nerd. Davis runs down, hands Kyle a title belt, and Kyle swings the thing a foot over the top of Bailey's head, and Bailey went down like he'd been shot.
Whose fault is that?
Sometimes I would. Let me say this. I'm not going to affix any blame right now, but I can tell you it's probably a combination. But it would be one of 2 things. If the guy swings the belt right, and you anticipate it because you're nervous about it, and you lean backwards. He put his hands up too. So he was obviously nervous about it. But if the guy takes the bump underneath it, and instead of where, if the guy swings where your head is and you bump too soon and he goes over, that can be your fault. Or if the guy swings too high and you put up your hands where your head were and you just go anyway. That's kind of both, but in all honesty, if a guy that you're letting do this finish can't take the belt and run and whack the guy over the head in a working way without the guy putting his hands up, I don't know why you're letting him do it. Because it's not like that it's all or, and when you put your hands up like that, it does prevent some of your eyesight from seeing where the thing's fucking going. But goddamn, again, you ought to be able to take the fucking belt and in some way or another whack this fucking guy to where he goes down without him having to fucking cover up like he sees a cannonball coming at him. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing, point being. But then that's the thing. Not only does he swing it over and he goes over his head and the guy takes the bump and boom, but then he picks Bailey up and gives him the brain buster and pins him 1, 2, 3. You're a heel. You've just used a foreign object to knock the guy out. Whether your work looks like shit or not, it's another matter. Why would you pick up? You wouldn't be able to pick up a fucking guy you had just knocked unconscious with a foreign object for a brain buster because he'd be dead weight. Instead of taking the heat from knocking a guy with the fucking belt, boom, cover, 1, 2, 3, he picks him up to give him his move.
Well, that's what this match was. It was moves. And, you know, for the people like us who think Speedball Mike Bailey looks a little ridiculous in there with heavyweights having long competitive matches where they can't beat him. On the other side, there are fans who think, hey, these two guys, no matter what the size and weight, went out there and worked 20 and gave us a lot of near falls and exciting moments.
Big moves.
Big moves. Kick out of everything. No matter who you are, you have the strength and the intestinal fortitude to get out of anything until, you know, near the end. It was a long match, and clearly they liked it in the room. But maybe that's part of the story. There's, I think, a bit of a disconnect right now. We talked about the fact that AEW is doing a better job of pleasing AEW fans, the kind of fans who like Speedball Mike Bailey and want him in long competitive matches with, like you said, Kyle Fletcher, future of the company if he stays there. One of the guys. But I don't know if the interest is there beyond that base. They're making their base happier, but they're not bringing new people in, and they're not causing people to stay. I mean, it's been a little bit of a story that their YouTube numbers have been significantly down, and I think that there is right now a lack of interest in AEW more than ever before from people who are not already AEW fans. It's just they're getting the people that have already been there more into what they're doing. So they're reacting better, but it's not growing. Like, there's no growth right now.
Well, now, come on, Brian. The head mouth organ of AEW, Uncle Dave, would disagree with you on that. He says they're closing the gap with the WWE. WrestleMania sales are down from last year, whereas the Collision ratings are up from last year. So they're clearly closing the gap, is what he's saying. But Uncle Dave was right there on the front row, and he gave this match 5 stars.
5 stars. 5-star match.
5 stars. And that is why they will never grow. They will never grow because Tony gets the feedback that he wants and the praise and the petting on that he wants from Uncle Dave, who is the guru of all the indie-rific, hey kids, let's put on a show kind of wrestling. And that's for the kind of people who like that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing they like. And they've decided they're going to do even more of it. And it's certainly a strategy because with the WWE, we've said, is boring us to death and making tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. But it's a long show with not a lot in it. But when the main event guys get involved and interact, it makes sense. You understand who's on whose side and why they're mad, things like that. And they sell you the big events. For Tony and the people with the afflictions that he and Dave and other people have, where it's just, we're going to go out there and do everything we've ever done before, everything we've ever seen anybody do, and everything we've ever thought of every fucking week. And we'll just do more of it. And that's where they're at now. And, you know, they may be getting some of their unhappy fans that they had a year or two ago back because they've had a break from all of the everything everywhere all at once. But nobody
and the Death Riders on top. That not being the heel Death Riders on top not being a thing is a big component in AEW fans being happy again.
Yes, but what's the next thing they're going to get tired of because it goes on and on and on and never goes anywhere? They'll do cycles with this same basic number of people is what I'm saying, but they've got no breakout stars and they can't make any because they don't know how to make stars. All they know how to do is have indie matches. And even their stars only have indie matches. So they can't they can get their devoted fans to spend a large amount of their time and money, but they can't get appreciable numbers more of the devoted fans with this type of thing that they're doing here.
You know, when you think about what the Observer was 30 years ago and the fan base for it, and not just then, but specifically looking at then, it was the people into the high-quality matches. It was people into the great promos. It was people into the big angles. If you're a fan of the AEW style of wrestling, you only get one of those. You're not getting the great promos. I don't care what anyone says.
No.
Because it's also about the setting and how things are set up. And again, that goes into the great angles. You don't get the great angles. You rarely get angles. And when you do, it's almost like a mockery of an angle. The stuff with FTR and Stokely, like it almost feels like a parody of a wrestling angle. That's the problem. AEW gives those fans the matches, and that's it.
I argue with you that they get great matches. They get long matches and matches with a lot of stuff in them, but I don't think they get great matches because of the same affliction as we've been talking about. They care more about doing their stunts and getting their cool tricks in than they do about having a quality, professional, believable fucking wrestling match from start to finish. And whether it's the phoniness that invariably comes up, like we talk about the fake looking heat, or the stupid chop exchanges, or the forearm trades, or the ridiculous contrived overacting before they go through the furniture, they lose the great matches because you can't lose yourself in them and believe what they're fucking doing. It's just a bunch of guys throwing each other through shit. So I argue they don't get either of the three.
Well, again, I would argue that's what's missing, though. I mean, when you look at WWE, the things that people buzz about, rarely, not that it doesn't happen, but rarely is it, the match was incredible. Rarely. Rarely. Did you hear what this guy said to this guy? Did you see what happened? Did you see that? It's about the angles and the promos. And I'm not saying those promos are perfect, but it's the opposite of AEW. And even when WWE's down, you see why that's the effect. That's what's always worked for American televised wrestling. The matches are one thing, but you got to get the personalities over, and then you got to do interesting things with them. And that's what's missing from AEW TV for a lot of us.
Well, and what some of them don't understand is they've put the cart before the horse in that in 30 or 40 years ago, or the territory days or whatever, the idea wasn't to not have a good match, but the idea was to do the angle. And then when the people paid to see the match, make it worth the money they paid to see. It wasn't that the great matches made people want to pay to see you. It was that if you got over, in most cases, by having mediocre matches where you squashed people quickly, and then you got over where they cared about you, and then you did an angle with someone else they cared about, then the match has to be great because they're paying to see it. If you have a great one, they'll come back and see it again when you rematch the son of a bitch. But just, you could have put guys out there to have great matches on the card, on every card every week, and nobody would have cared unless you put them then in a fucking angle with somebody else they cared about and made them fucking important. And it's Uncle Dave is having some breaking points too with one of his trusted minions. Cousin Brian is arguing now with Uncle Dave's irrational defenses of, well, I mean, it just, everything is, the Collision ratings are up, so fuck WrestleMania. What? It's constant with this guy.
Well, this was sent to us by a lot of the listeners because they posted it on YouTube, and it follows up on things we've talked about, which are, again, with AEW just announcing their streaming service on their own internationally because of Triller's issues, we've talked about the idea that if they truly have 140,000 people buying their pay-per-view every month, maybe there's something to be done with a streaming platform for, at a minimum, the Archives, Ring of Honor, whatever it is.
Yes, and we're getting this 140,000 because, again, it's a privately held company, so there's not official numbers, but Tony Khan is nice enough to report them to Dave so that he can pass them on, that they always do, it seems like, about 130, 140,000 pay-per-view buys.
That's what's been reported publicly by Dave Meltzer recently, at least off the top of my head. That's what I think of. But let's go to this audio from Wrestling Observer Live, I believe, or Wrestling Observer Radio. Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez talking about the AEW pay-per-view buys. And let's see what Bryan Alvarez thinks of Dave Meltzer's idea that it's not 140,000 people buying pay-per-views every month. It's 140,000 different people who buy one pay-per-view. These people on average buy one. I'll let him explain it, but it's pretty.
Okay.
It's staggering. Let's go to this.
Yeah.
I hate to be that guy, but cannot buy for 1 second that AEW fans buy one pay-per-view a year. How can this be?
I had the 2023 and 2024 numbers. The number of people who bought every pay. This is from United States, from the major cable companies.
So the people that are buying on pay-per-view through a cable company.
It was covering about 60 million people. Yeah. Which is a pretty darn good survey when it comes to 60 million out of 90 million with exact numbers. Yes, it's not like this estimate or anything like that.
Let me stop it there for a second. He's saying he's getting exact numbers from the cable companies, at least 60 million. The ones who represent 60 million people, I guess, is the way to put it.
Well, and I wonder why that they feel the need to give him this information. It's not reported anywhere else. But besides that, yeah, there are 60 million people that have pay-per-view, or were at some point over the last couple of years, that have cable pay-per-view capability and don't do streaming or whatever, like I used to before they ixnayed my cable channel off the system. But what he is trying to get Bryan Alvarez to believe is that the average AEW pay-per-view buyer only buys one pay-per-view a year, and therefore it's a revolving group of around 140,000 different people every month that, for the most part, that buy. This is what is stunning and unbelievable, and what Bryan Alvarez is having a cow about.
Well, let's go back to this audio. Meltzer and Alvarez on AEW pay-per-view buys.
So yeah, whatever the numbers were, you can look them up in the back issues of the Observer. I mean, those are exact numbers.
Every time we do a poll, and in fact, there's one on the front page on our board right now, and like almost everybody is like, I've bought every single pay-per-view they've ever done. I buy every single one.
That's on our site. We're talking about normal people.
Normal people.
You know, that may.
Hold on, let's stop there for a moment.
We're talking about normal, sane people here. We're not talking about our fucking people. God damn it. What in the world?
Well, let me stop you there. We're not talking about our fans. We're talking about normal people. That's what he thinks of his fans.
I mean, it beggars just belief. That, because even with the WWE, that we've talked about this, the WWE fans are a set number of really dedicated, not as many across the country as there used to be in the Attitude Era or previous years, but they each will spend more money for tickets, or they'll buy more merchandise, or they will support, or they'll watch it, or whatever the fuck. And it's the same with AEW. But to think that the AEW fans, for the most part, it would be the opposite. Most of the AEW fans, one would think, would buy all of the pay-per-views. They don't have one a month. They've got, 9 a year or whatever. That doesn't make sense.
Okay. It doesn't make sense in any way if you know anything about wrestling fans.
Yes. Or that, is he trying to say that there's a group of 6 or 8 or 10 people that just in every town.
Everywhere. This is floating party that's for AEW pay-per-views.
Yes,
right.
and they come down the street with a banner and a tuba. Wompa, wompa. Here's the AEW pay-per-view party. Which house are we going to this month? And they all converge there.
Yeah, it sucks to be the host because you know they're going to be there late.
Yeah, and everybody needs to save that $40 enough to feed 8 people coming into the goddamn. That's.
Let's go back. We have more audio. Let's go back to Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez talking about the AEW pay-per-view buys.
The numbers are right there. I mean, I was stunned when I first saw it, but we were tracking it. We were tracking it year after year, and it never, like when it was 4 and it was only 1, it was kind of like the theory, well, maybe it's 4 people and they rotate homes. But when it was 9 and it was still generally 1, most people bought 1 a year. It tells you that most people buy 1 a year.
That
most of the people who buy a show.
I'm sure that's what the number says, but when you think about it, it's like, how could everybody buy on average 1 a year, yet they always do almost the exact same number of buys?
Bingo!
Usually the low is about 100, and the high is about, depending on the year, 175, obviously, when Sting retired, or the first, it's usually 100 or 175. This one will be interesting coming up.
Well, there it is. And you can tell Alvarez knows this is complete bullshit, too. It doesn't make any sense at all. And if Dave say he saw this from the cable companies, are we sure that the cable companies, not the people that were submitting false reports from Dragon Gate or whatever, or about Shibata having his brain removed?
Hold on. Either the cable company kindly just provided internal statistics per Dave's request tailored to his specific question. And think of all we're not disputing that they do tens of thousands, if not 100,000 or whatever buys per show. So there's over 1 million buys. They just collated this information for him to fit exactly what he wanted, or they just gave him raw data. And he, with a skeleton crew, one would imagine, went through this Epstein file size documentation to get the data he wanted. How do you?
Well, listen, you said 1 million. It's either AEW sells 1 million pay-per-views a year to their audience, or 1 million different people choose one pay-per-view. I don't know how they make the decision, and that's the one they watch. Which doesn't make any sense. How can anyone supply those numbers? Do those numbers need to be adjusted like the ratings were adjusted? Like, what are those
That's
numbers?
the thing. You would have to do some kind of cross-reference for everybody that had bought pay-per-view on every local cable system to then go through the blah, blah, blah. And what? But again, it is not logical nor believable that the majority of just like the majority of the people who used to buy the WWE pay-per-views when they had such a thing, they weren't buying every single one of them every goddamn month, but many people would buy most of them. And then you get the big ones for WrestleMania and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But
it just doesn't make any sense. And he's just so sure of it because he's seen the numbers from the cable. I mean, that's what he's saying. He's saying he got this info from the cable company. And again, In Demand's out of business now. So that means he's getting it from Dish and from the cable companies. And if they're indicating that, then they really don't know their audience either. That's crazy.
Or is this a situation where it's like, okay, Paulie, you're trying to make me either believe that Jack Nicholson is a fan of our angle, or you don't care whether, because he swore on his father's life. I said, you don't care whether your father kicks the bucket or not. Who do you believe?
I don't know.
What are the odds, Brian? Who can we pick? Can we be somehow proper and lucky, possibly, with our picks? Could we possibly have a daily fantasy?
Yes. Yeah, we possibly
could. Have a daily fantasy where we just fantasize daily, like
that's right.
Many of these other people that we've been talking about do.
We fantasize that you have the copy pulled up, yes.
but not about the pay-per-view buys. Yes, fantasize about the copy, which now tells me that the playoff push is heating up, folks. And tournament hoops are here, and there's no better way to cash in on the high-flying hoops action than Prize Picks. They're doing crossbodies off the hoop, and they're doing moonsaults off that. Would you like to see a moonsault off the backboard in a basketball game, Brian?
No, it was more. It was more exciting bluegrass brawl. I got to see the basketball net being used, and it looked a lot more dangerous than anything like that.
Well, see, that's the thing. If they just do this in basketball too, it would help. Yeah, and he almost broke his ankle too. Yeah, Craig got carried away. But if they just in basketball just let people moonsault off the backboard, imagine what that would do for the game. It wouldn't make a lick of sense, but people would go, ooh. But at Prize Picks, folks, it always feels good to be right. Every bucket, every dime, and every win means more when you understand when you're playing on Prize Picks. So the buckets are the shots and the dimes are money, I guess. Don't pass up your next shot with Prize Picks. You're going to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. And that's basically what you got to do, folks. You got to download the Prize Picks app, and you just got to start picking. Because when you start picking, then you're going to start grinning. I'm a picking, and I'm a grinning. Because if you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, if you get your picks right, you could cash in. You could get an early payout. You could make off with some money under cover of darkness before anybody knows it's happened.
The legitimate way.
And with a new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click, and they will never know it's been done. They'll be completely in the dark. All those winners that you're plagiarizing, they won't know unless you get on the wrong side of Prize Picks, and then your name is on a list. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. That means if you pick a right pick on the power play, then you immediately also get to guest star in Power Schlap. And once if they knock your brains out, then they're going to hand you your money. You won't be able to count it anymore because you'll have no brain matter left. But no matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. And everybody wants to be take tested. Get in on the action. Prize Picks is now available in all 50 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. For some reason, they want us to mention specifically, I guess, because there's many people there that are picking right now. And once again, Prize Picks puts their users, that's you first, so all the withdrawals are fast and secure. If you go up there, if you show some kind of weapon, you don't even have to have a mask on. They're just going to give you the money.
No, what the hell? You stop already. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about
secure.
On your phone, the smart way. You don't have to go anywhere and interact with anyone.
If you hold your phone up, well, fuck, it's not going to do anything unless you tell it.
Once again, silly scenarios are fun scenarios. Also want to make mention there is no affiliation with Power Slap, despite what was said earlier, and I think we've walked back most of it. Jim, the comedy,
yes,
the comedy portion is over. We need to get serious.
It's over with.
We need to let people know.
Completely serious.
Very serious.
You can download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code JCE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's the code JCE, $50 for $5. That's 10 times. That makes sense. And there's no Power Schlap involved. Prize Picks, it's good to be right and not schlapped.
That's right, Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Jim, back to AEW Dynamite.
Because I'll tell you what, sometimes when you're wrong, you will get schlapped. and then you're embarrassed because you were wrong, plus your fucking ears are ringing because somebody slapped shit out of you. That's just the way I think about it. They had a standby match, Brian. They don't understand what it is. They've just heard the term. So to get away, I can read Tony's mind now at this point. Unfortunately, I don't know why. It's worrying me. But he doesn't want to just put a job match, a squash match, like the Marks call it, down. Because, well, then he's going to be accused of being a bad booker because they're not all main events. But if he puts in a standby match, then it can be explained where a star is wrestling a nobody because they were just on standby. Brian, when do you have the standby match?
The standby match would take place after all the previously announced segments or matches, especially the main event, had taken place.
And the show ends early, and that's why you've got time to fill, and therefore that's why you had a match on standby in case you needed an extra match, right?
It's a time filler match, yes.
They put the standby match on at 8:50 Eastern on a 2-hour show from 8 to 10.
Defeats the purpose.
Exactly. So Brody King gets in the ring with the tweaker from Tijuana. I don't know what this guy... I wouldn't have hired him to park cars at the venue. This is the worst looking wrestler I've ever seen. And this is an example of when you get a guy that just shouldn't be doing complicated physical things. Brody King gave him the Gonzo bomb or whatever the fuck. But he won in 10 seconds. Thankfully. But Jesus Christ, it just looks bad for the television program. It used to drive me crazy when I was in TBS, the Crockett days, some of the appearances, some of the job guys, they were nice fellows. We tried to take care of them, but it's just unprofessional. Anyway, so then Brody said, "Where's Swerve? Where's Swerve?" He's on the floor around the ring, slapping hands with the fans, walking around the ring going, "Where's Swerve? I want Swerve." Well, his Swerve stands up. He's in the front row in a black hood with a logging chain, and nobody noticed. Brian, how the fuck were the people in the front row sitting next to a guy covered all in black and carrying a fucking 10-foot logging chain? And when Brody King's circling the ring and can't see him sitting on the front row? Or the people are not going, "Oh, he's right over there." He walks right by him.
Maybe they thought it was Rollins.
So he walks right by Swerve in the front row in the black hood with the logging chain, and Swerve jumps him and starts to beat him up and throws him in the ring, and then takes the chain and he's holding it like it's a Fabergé egg, like it will crack into a million pieces, and he gingerly puts it around Brody's neck and acts like he's choking him. And you're like, why did he do that so gingerly? And then Brody King bows up on him and stands up in front of him and breaks the chain. That's why he was so careful with it. And then Brody was beating up Swerve and choking him out, but Nana, at least, bless him, now that he's a heel, he'll try to get physical. When he was a babyface, he'd just jump out of the ring when they were beating up Swerve. Now that he's a fucking heel, he comes over and tries to beat on Brody, and Brody leveled Nana and Swerve got away. But, okay. Number one, Brian, have you ever even seen on any of the world's strongest man competitions, is it, yes, you see strong men and in wrestling or whatever, you break the handcuffs or you do this or that, but that ridiculous size of that chain. Number one, nobody's breaking that. But number two, if they're going to gimmick shit, do they not even know how to gimmick it so it won't fall apart if they fucking tug on it a little bit before the spot? I learned that 40 years ago when I got talked into letting them saw my racket halfway in half for that fucking big goof Little John. And it ended up a popcorn fart. I said, we're not going to do shit like that again. If you can't work the shit properly, don't do the shit. Don't do shit you don't know how to do, as Dusty would say. Am I making too much of this?
No. But also, who's there that would teach them? Who's there that would know? And what knowledge do you want to drop on everyone to hear about it?
Well, it's not, again, there have been times where you gimmick chains so that, like, if the cage door was chained, right? And those are usually the smaller chains, like 2 or 3 feet, and the lock is on it or whatever. Or you want to gimmick handcuffs where a guy can snap the handcuffs. And that's believable and can be done, has been done. And again, I had fault with not only the size of the chain they're having the human being break, but even if you wanted to go that far. I don't know how they did it, but we've always had success. All you have to do, and especially in the days before high definition television, or just tell them don't shoot the goddamn close up of the handcuffs. If you're handcuffed to a guy, there are some kinds of handcuffs that have like 2 or 3 feet of chain in the middle. Have you seen those, Brian, where the guys are handcuffed, but they've got a lot of chain in the middle of them?
Oh, yeah. We've seen those in AEW, I believe.
Well, those are actually leg shackles. Because they got to be, if you're getting law enforcement equipment, they got to be able to walk in the leg shackles, but they can't run because they can't separate their legs very far. They can only shuffle. But it's easier when you're in a worked environment, handcuffed to a guy, to have a little chain in the middle. However, for the most part, when I started in the business, they were using real handcuffs that they would get because a lot of guys either knew or were off-duty sheriff's department people, or they just go to when I got them in Smoky Mountain, I just went to the law enforcement store and bought 10 pairs of handcuffs. They've got like 3 links of fucking chain in between them. If that, some of them don't have any chain in the middle of them anymore. You can't work with those at all. Those are impossible to work with. But if you've got the ones with just 3 links of chain in the middle, all you do is clip one of those links of chain and replace it with a paper clip. And if you twist it up, trim it down, if you twist it up right, you can't see it from any distance away, and it will hold for you to work around doing some things handcuffed to a guy. But when time comes, or the guy's just handcuffed himself, if he needs to snap them, he can fucking snap them, but it takes a little effort to do it, and that way it looks like he's doing something. The same thing with the chain on a door. If you're not going to do bolt cutters, you want the strong man to fucking break it. Pre-cut the chain, but you gimmick it back together, but it ought to be able to be handled at least roughly enough to put around somebody's neck without falling apart. So I don't know what these people are doing. Have I spoiled Santa Claus for the kids, Brian?
Oh, no. I think a lot of the kids here may already know. What do you think of how they're using Brody King? Obviously, he got the shit kicked out of him and choked out last week by Swerve when he could have just stood up and ended the hanging at any point. And this was his big comeback, I guess, getting choked again and breaking the chains, scaring Swerve. I guess that's part of the story. Swerve looked scared. But what do you think of how they're booking Brody King?
I think, well, it's been refreshing that a big grown guy, he's gotten a little bit better with his promos because he's had more to talk about and more time to talk. I mentioned last week that he seemed like he had a little more oomph to him in the ring. I like the idea that he's getting a number of wins and being portrayed as a dominant big guy. And truthfully, it seems to me like, and this would probably help their plans, but it will probably fuck up the plans they've got, but it would help the plans they should have. I'd have Brody King, if Swerve has kicked shit out of him a couple of times now, I'd have Brody King beat Swerve at the pay-per-view and be next in line for MJF. Because we already have seen some of that business and it hasn't really been resolved. The ill will still exists, but Swerve is just, at this point, the people that like him, even though he's a heel, the people that, whatever, but a guy like Brody King getting a win over Swerve now could do Brody King some good. Brody King beats Swerve after he's Swerve beats Brody King after he's already beaten him up a few times. That doesn't really help much at all. Plus, MJF better not lose this belt to this nitwit Page. And so you need baby faces to face MJF in the title picture.
I just wonder, because the whole thing was about setting up Swerve and Omega, who he injured because he said Brody King was more dangerous than him.
Yeah, boy.
Maybe Omega cost him the match, because that's what I was going to say. I agree with you. Brody King shouldn't lose. Probably wouldn't help him to lose. There's something to be done with him right now if there was ever a time. But also Swerve is being set up for a top spot and has the thing with Omega. So it's almost like something has to happen to cost Swerve the match, but not make it so that, he just got beat. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, but then, see, that's the thing. If they were all in the same kind of level, the same kind of position, that might be okay. But it does nothing for Brody King, for Kenny, to fucking help him beat Swerve. If he beats him by himself, that's one thing. And then if Kenny helps him, then they are going to Kenny and Swerve and leaves out Brody King. And of the three of them, Brody King is probably the most valuable. He's going to last longer than Kenny, and he's fresher than fucking Swerve, who I just lose interest in all the time because of all of the stupid shit that he's involved in, whether it be syringes, blood drinking, house burning, or fake chains. I don't know. I wanted to watch the debut of the son of Fit Finlay, Brian. I wanted to, but they put him in with pockets. The 9:00 hour match on this television program, the top of the 9:00 hour, when they ought to try to put one of their best feet forward. They usually put their left foot forward. Pockets and Darby Allin against Gabe Kidd and David Finlay. At first, I thought, why are they doing this to Darby? He was one of their most popular guys. He was going for the world title. He was climbing Mount Everest. Now he's the tag team partner of the Mascot wrestling mid-card guys. And then they debut Finlay, the big acquisition, in a tag team match with a partner that people barely give two shits about, against the aforementioned Mascot.
Did you see Gabe Kidd do his crawling thing when he crawls out?
I forgot to watch.
Oh, you got to watch it. It's so funny. It's the funniest thing on the show every week now.
I'm sorry. I forgot, because I zipped ahead to the bell ringing, and I said, I'm going to watch for Finlay, right? And then they did nothing for 30 seconds, and then they all broke into a 100-mile-an-hour four-way and went straight to the floor. And I thought, okay, between all of this nonsense, I don't remember ever seeing a David Finlay match. So I didn't want this to be my first impression and just go, well, he's just bullshit like the rest of them. So if they book him in a legitimate match where both opponents or his opponents are actually real wrestlers, and they don't start the match at a four-way on the floor, I'll watch it, see if he can work. But on fast forward, this was more indier than the last thing was. And then they beat Darby, not Pockets, and Gabe Kidd got the pin, not Finlay. So that's insane.
Isn't it funny too that he debuts the same week that his father shows up again on NXT to be the head of a stable?
Boy, they must be rubbing it in. There must have been some ill will or something between Finlay and the WWE, because why? But nevertheless, and then after that, Roderick Strong came in and beat up the heels and switched babyface again. That's what happened there.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy Willow Nightingale defending the TBS title against Persephone?
As we know, because we hear from angry ladies wrestling fans, it's Persephone. And it was all right. It was all right.
Well, good. I'm glad. So then the main event, They have done everybody that I like or I want to check out or I want to watch their shit. They put them opposite with or teaming with people that I've sworn for my own sanity that I don't want to watch them try to wrestle. Now we like Tommaso Ciampa. We want to see some more Tommaso Ciampa. So they make Tommaso Ciampa unwatchable. But now, hold on. His booking, Brian, remind me if I miss anything. He debuted a surprise debut and got a title match the very next, not even a week later. And in his first match there, he won the belt from Mark Briscoe. But then after that match, they shook hands. So Tommaso Ciampa was a babyface. And then Tommaso Ciampa, in his third match in the company, lost that belt to Kyle Felcher, who's a heel.
Well, it was in Australia. He was a babyface in Australia.
Well, but I don't care if they're on Neptune. On this television program, in this universe, he is a heel member of the heel stable with a heel manager. And then Tommaso Ciampa on television was talking the other night when FTR came out, and they reminded everybody that they'd hated each other for 10 years because I even said, you're talking about something that happened in another company 10 years ago that was, to be honest, not like of earth-shaking import that they do documentaries about and etc.
No, the other guy that was a part of that feud right now, his angle is that he sleeps on things.
Yes. But they were not happy with each other. And then Tommaso Ciampa turned heel on Mark Briscoe and beat him up. And people made notice of the fact that he did the exact same thing move for move to Mark Briscoe when he turned on him that he did to old Johnny Sameface, his sleepy partner today, when he turned on him 10 years ago or whatever. And now he hadn't been in the company 6 weeks. He is teaming with the guys that he's hated for 10 years after being a babyface, then a fucking heel, then a fucking, first a champion, then an ex-champion. And he's taking on Mark Briscoe and the Cucamonga Kids because since he's teaming up with FTR, he's been drawn into the Trampoline Cowboy co-universe. So, yeah. I used to love FTR, but they're dead to me now. They're dead in the water now. And I love Mark Briscoe and I love Tommaso Ciampa, but none of them are worth watching a match involving the Cucamonga Kids, which involved a jump start and a 6-way on the floor to begin. But that's where we're at now with Ciampa in 6 weeks. A babyface, a heel, a champion, an ex-champion. He hates these guys. He turns on the other guy now. He's teaming with these guys. What the fuck? Talk me down.
And it was obviously a big deal for the Bucks performing in front of Dave Meltzer. That's kind of like, Tony Bennett singing for Cindy Adams. But, yeah, that was another Bucks match. We're getting a lot of the Bucks style of matches on this California swing. And we'll see if hopefully it does better this time than it did last time. Apparently last time the internal chatter was it tanked the ratings. So hopefully it does better this time.
Well, every time that it was external chatter, when it was public, they tanked the ratings. So why would it be the same thing now that they're not telling us? They're still tagging the ratings. We just don't hear the numbers.
We talk about Tony Khan's wacky ideas about wins and losses not mattering. And in fact, losses helping you get over if it happens all the time. Is there any justification? How would it help Ciampa the way he's been booked since he got there? He's all over the place. The week after he debuts, was he even on Dynamite? Like he went right to Collision.
He skipped a week. That's why I thought that his match where he lost the title was his second, but it was his third.
Yeah, how does this help him? But whatever. You know, again, there's not a lot of good booking and not a lot of good angles in AEW. That's just the reality.
Well, but for once, the main event ended right at 10 o'clock. And they were off the air, didn't have an overrun, I thought. Until I accidentally saw somebody talking about the press conference between MJF and Hangnail Page on the internet saying, well, but about this press conference. And I said, I didn't see that. They saved the press conference for the overrun, but they literally ended the match and that last 6-man and a guy was standing in the ring or whatever, and you'd think it's 10 o'clock, it's over with. And for the DVR fans, they didn't get it. And then they did the whole press conference all in the overrun. And I guess they did this simply so they could get a pop when they would lull the fans into a state of pissedness, thinking that they weren't going to see MJF and Page live, and then they can fight out into the building. Because why else did they do this the way they did it? They have a press conference hosted by Bryan Danielson, who is not a master of ceremonies, not a host of a press conference, not a journalist or roving reporter or news anchor or anybody that needs to be goddamn doing this. Can you agree with me on that, Brian?
I disagree with you. I think he's kind of like the Gene Rayburn of AEW, and I thought
come on!
Was the right pick, clearly.
My God. So they had 5 people in an empty room, and they shot the podium with Danielson in the middle, MJF on one side, Page on the other side, and the back of those 5 people's heads because there was nobody else in the room. And those 5 people were the reporters asking questions with a microphone, but they couldn't even shoot their faces because to turn the camera around would reveal that there's nobody in the fucking room. But when they clapped, it was echoing. And the entire static shot was the back of these same 5 people's heads. And to make it look like a press conference, they had to actually answer questions. So Page had no material. If he can't memorize his goddamn dramatic scene where he tries to eclipse John Wayne's performance in fucking True Grit, he's got nothing to fucking say. And their voices were echoing in this empty room. And then you started hearing the fans in the arena, because they were showing it on the screen, start hooting at this thing because they were like, what the fuck? We're watching TV. Get them out of here. And then finally, the way they got into the fight was MJF said, well, like you Cowboys do, yeah, I'm going to cheers you. They've got 2 beers in red cups. Like they were afraid to show a beer brand on I don't know what the fuck. He got 2 beers in red cups. He wanted to cheers Page. Page knocked one drink out of his hand. MJF threw the other drink in his face. They get in a fight. The 5 people in the room never get up. As they're starting to fight off camera, they cut to the arena because they can't fight off camera because the room is empty. And then they fight into the arena. Even though they obviously pre-taped this at some point way ahead. But nevertheless, when they're fighting, MJF shit looks good because he tries to. When he throws a punch, he'll grab the guy and he'll draw back and he'll try to make something look good instead of 100 things just be there. But then security comes out and Page beats them all up one by one as they stand there waiting for him to, and gives MJF a dead eye in the middle of the ring, and then pulls out a barbed wire board and tries to give him the dead eye on the barbed wire board, but MJF squirms out and runs off. Brian, do you know what Page was trying to do there when you think about it?
No. What was he trying to do?
The idiot was trying to ruin his own title match. Think about this. Yeah, we beat the guy up because he made you mad. Yeah, beat him up. But if you cripple the fucking guy, you've just screwed yourself out of your title match. Why would he try to give him a dead eye off the apron onto a board wrapped in barbed wire sitting on concrete when he's got a Texas death match with him on the pay-per-view? If he does that to him, he's dead. It's all about, oh, this would be cool. It looked like I killed you. Till you get up.
Well, an interesting build to the MJF Adam Page Texas death match. MJF runs off again. And that was AEW Dynamite. And again, the pay-per-view, by the time you hear this, will have taken place. Hopefully MJF doesn't lose the title to Adam Page. And hopefully they can get MJF away from this already. It's time to move on and feud with someone else who's not going to cut these kind of promos.
Or if they do switch the belt, Brian, you know what that means, don't you? That means the shit's going to be getting awful deep down in here. And that's why we're going to need some Brunt work boots. Because I'm telling you, if you got to wade through shit, ladies and gentlemen, you will find no better boot to help you navigate the manure than the Brunt work boot. Because after all, ladies and gentlemen, Brunt was built to protect your feet, whether it be from wetness or from damage by falling hard objects or from trudging through shit. And Brian, don't we feel like it? In today's world, we all have to trudge through a lot more shit.
Yeah. Especially when watching AEW, trying to get to the pay-per-view. Trying to get to the main event, I should say.
Or just trying to make it to the pay-per-view. But folks, if you want to make it up the hill, out of the creek, or off the roof, the Brunt work boots, the Marin or the Omen, they've got all kinds of styles. They've got all kinds of workwear. It's not just boots. They'll cover you up from head to toe with all the fine quality, heavy-duty work pants, weather-resistant jackets, all the kind of high-performance gear built for tough jobs. And you know, right now, one of the Monroe brothers is out of the yard, and I have turned him on to the Brunt work boot. And he does masonry, and he climbs up on roofs, and he does all kinds of various manual labor. He says these are the greatest things that he's ever stuck on his feet. He's trying to figure out a way to wear them on his hands, too. Because he's had a lot of problems with his hands.
How would that help him? How would he be able to get anything done if he's wearing boots on his hands? Not that you should do this. This is not recommended.
Well, because, see, they're waterproof, so his hands won't get wet. They've got protective toes, if you get that model, so his hands won't get all beat up and his fingers won't get broke. And then also, if he walks on his hands, he can leave somebody else's footprints when he's trying to escape from the scene of a crime.
All right, again, back to the crimes. Let's get away from that, Jim.
Well, I've been telling the Monroes that for a long time, but nevertheless,
let's not talk crime. Let's not waste time. We got a great deal.
Cut corners. Let's cut a corner.
Cut to the chase.
And go straight to the chase, because Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners, putting in cardboard for soles, making these things out of paper mache. They have built something better, boots that are insanely comfortable, built for any job site and for a limited time only. Hurry now. It may not last forever. Our listeners are going to get $10 off at Brunt when you use the code JCE at checkout. Just go to bruntworkwear.com and use the code JCE, $10 off, and tell them you heard about them here because they love us, and that way they'll love you too. So here's a kick in the ass from me to you to get the best kind of boots you can get to go out in the yard and muck around in the mire and the grime and the grease and the various elements. And your feet will thank you for your feet will kiss you instead of you having to kiss somebody else's feet. Think about that. Think about what it's like to have a loving kiss from a big old foot.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, it's starting to heat up. You're going to need to get out there and do some work. We have the perfect work boots for you. Jim, one more time, that great deal, that promo code for the listeners.
That's right. And in today's environment, we're all going to have to pull up our bootstraps and get out in the yard and do some work. BruntWorkwear.com. Use the promo code JCE and protect your little tootsies from illness and injury.
Brunt!
Oh, wow.
All right, a groovy trip through time here to the future. We had a good time before. I don't know what I'm saying. Here we are.
It's we're
early.
in the future, and I'll tell you what, that sour note that you hit flummoxed my noise baffling equipment. Anyway, we've time traveled a bit because we were just a scant distance away from Smackdown, so we thought we would include that on this program, which we're about to here in a few minutes, as well as an update on Dallas Edwards, the OVW referee that got, laid out and had the medical emergency. It's been not even 24 hours since we were recording the first part of this podcast, but first of all, I won't say he's okay. He's in ICU with a brain bleed, but he's up, cognizant, having issued a statement and talking to people. So that's a positive. But this thing, besides the local news here, it was on WDRB this morning. I haven't seen the other stations, but it's been on TMZ. And Brian, what did you say? The New York Post?
Yeah. It was in the New York Post. Again, I think the New York Post, like a lot of newspapers, have discovered that wrestling fans are out there, even if you don't realize they're there, and they will click on things. So they cover more wrestling stuff now than ever before, but I think they would have covered this one anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it blew up not only on social media, as we said, but again, regular news outlets have picked this thing up. And on the local news report, they interviewed his mother. He's like 22 years old. And I guess he's not even locally from here. He works in the St. Louis area as a referee over there at some other, independent group, but was, making a shot over here or whatever. But I guess his mother obviously came into town and she understands he's been wrestling and whatever. And she understands, there's risks, but she is pissed about the guys just disregarding him. And the one guy that moved him out of the way, she is not a happy person about that. And, so again, it's looked bad on everybody. And I've never seen such a downpouring or outpouring or whatever on Twitter of people just pissed about this thing.
And we'll get to a statement because I have it here, a message that was issued on Facebook, I believe. But what have you thought of the reaction from wrestling fans, seemingly all sorts of wrestling fans, their reaction towards OVW, the wrestlers in the match, Al Snow? I mean, I'm sure you've seen it because I've been overwhelmed by the reaction.
Well,
that I've seen.
There's a guy or two in the match that there can be some kind of plausible deniability for them because it was behind their back. They didn't see what the fuck or whatever. But the one guy specifically that drug the guy out of the way, the referee out of the way, and kicked him out of the way to do their spot while he's in the middle of a horrible seizure. I don't know what he was thinking. There was a guy, the blonde-haired guy that was the partner that wasn't really in the ring. He got back up on the apron. As you look at this video again more closely, and he's like waiting for the next spot where he's supposed to come in, but he has a perspective. He's back away from these guys that are in the middle of trying to do their thing and may not be paying attention to the referee behind them. So he can see the whole thing. Why again, nobody felt like they had the authority. The announcers are just meekly going, well, somebody should check on Dallas. And with the guy that I was talking about, the blonde guy that had a perspective on everything, is just like watching, like, should I do something? Nobody felt like they had the authority or wanted to take the authority on themselves. And that's just insane. And I said, was Al Snow on the premises? I can't confirm this, and I'm willing to be corrected. But I've seen somebody say that he was actually out in front of the people earlier that night on the show. And now maybe it was a tape or something, and somebody's seen wrong, because I don't watch the program or really know how to find that particular episode. But again, just everybody standing around with their dick in their hand, not thinking they have the authority to do anything. Indicate where was the people with the authority to do something, and who were they?
And again, I think a lot of people have pointed to Al Snow because he's in charge. And also, it's not like his quotes haven't gone around where he's been on various outlaw shows saying things like, someone will die in an AEW ring, I guarantee it.
Oh, that's the meme going around now, where he's on some program saying, I guarantee somebody will die in an AEW ring, and it's just Al Snow owns OVW. And they put out a statement, and Dallas put out a statement, but should we also mention that Al did not do himself any favors? The first thing that he tweeted, apparently, this is nothing that everybody's been firing back at him on. The first thing that he tweeted out on his personal account after this incident took place was a Waffle House joke.
Now, what made people really upset was because no one pays attention to OVW. No one found out about this. Right before we started recording is when you found out, and then as we were recording, it blew up. So no one really knew about this. It
happened 15 miles away from me.
Well, no one really knew about it yet. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Nobody would have known had this not been put out on social media.
So the video starts going around social media, and then people right away go to see what Al Snow, has he said anything? Because they know he's in charge and he is part owner or whatever his role is currently with the current OVW. The wind is really kicking up behind me. Obviously, the wrestling gods don't like this discussion. And Al Snow, after the fact, because this is 10/17, March 13th, when the incident would have been the evening of March 12th, tweeted out, I told the Waffle House waitress there was a fly on my waffle. She said, oh, I forgot that one when I took off the other 3. And several of the comments responding are an image of Al Snow that says, someone will die in an AEW ring. I guarantee it.
Well, and here's the thing. Somebody even tweeted, I've seen some Waffle House fights, and if somebody went into a seizure in the middle of one of them, the other people would stop and help the guy. It's just, this is a self-inflicted fucking wound.
From these photos, it looks like Al is in better shape now than he's ever been. Maybe he's on some of the same vitamins as some of the younger guys, but maybe this could be his new gimmick, Tone Deaf Al Snow, where he does the exact wrong thing, or says the exact wrong thing at the wrong time. But we have a statement here from Dallas Edwards. Let me pull this up. Once again from Facebook. Hey guys, I know everyone seems to know about the scary incident last night at OVW. I've been evaluated by a hospital, and I have a concussion, as well as a subdural hematoma, a brain bleed. With that being said, I have made the decision to take some needed time away to get my life and health back in good spirits. I appreciate all the support everyone has been offering, but as far as money goes, I am grateful to be in a position that I can manage an accident like this.
Good for him.
In lieu of donations, I instead implore all my fellow workers to get some sort of training in assisting another's life. Being in the position before, It's very important to be educated in all scenarios relating to injury, illness, or condition in the ring, especially when we're performing. I'm not mad at anyone or anything, other than the situation as a whole, and that I've been sitting for about 24 hours straight in a hospital. LOL. As far as updates go, I'm getting a CT scan in the morning, and if that goes well, I'll be home. Thank you to everyone who has reached out or stopped by. It means more than any of you know. Love, Dally. With an emoji of two hands coming together to make a heart.
And
an image of him giving thumbs up in his hospital bed, and now that we know he's on the road to recovery, maybe we could do something about that haircut.
Oh. Well, at least you waited to find out if he was going to pull through. Again, since yesterday, and I've seen so many more of these tweets and etc., and everybody trying to figure out who to blame or what to blame, and there's plenty to go around. Dallas did nothing wrong. But again, I just hearken back to somehow in the, whether you want to talk about the territory days in whatever decade, 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s, with all that shit going on. I don't know about ECW. I don't know what the fuck was happening with those guys. But I was in the WWF. I was in WCW. We worked territories where we've gone over the schedule, where we 8 or 10 times a week, we would be wrestling with TV tapings and bullshit. And obviously there weren't dives off the top rope through furniture to the floor and et cetera, et cetera. But there was cross bodies and referee bumps, and it's not just this incident, but everybody is getting hurt because they're going too fast, doing too much, sometimes without either the proper training or just the lack of experience. You can train for something all you want, but unless you've actually done it for real over and over, that's another fucking thing. And the fact that everybody gets to play now. And I'm not blaming Dallas, but he can't be 120 pounds. And even though the guy that landed on him doesn't look much bigger once he stood up next to the other two guys, he's coming from 10 feet in the air. And it just...
But that's the question, too. What did they expect would happen? He couldn't have caught him. That wasn't an option.
I think he was supposed to give him a forearm and go past him, and he just smashed him instead. Because, again, why get that complicated at this level in front of 100 people? In front of a stream of 300 people and around the world. Why do we have to let everyone live out their dream to be in the main event at Starrcade 86? And it's getting dangerous. And I've seen people on Twitter say, well, they ought to, OVW, they ought to fucking fire those guys. Fire them? From what? How could you... You fire people for if somebody has a job where they are paid to do work and make a living at that, that's a job you can get fired from. Like I said, this is like a lot of these little groups. A lot of people have tried to copy the OVW format from 30 years ago that we kind of originated. And now there's a local promotion with a big TV setup at a warehouse in some town in every town in America. And they're all trying, as I said earlier in the program that we recorded, to do their little version of, oh, this is the big time. We've got lights and curtains and TV, and everybody gets to play a part and be a part of it. And somebody's going to get fucking killed. In the territories, that's the point I was making every night. I never saw anybody go into convulsions. I saw very few people get knocked out to where they couldn't fucking get up. Dizziness, now that's another factor, as we've talked about and told stories. But I can't remember how many thousands of matches was I involved in as a manager between 1982 and 1998. I don't remember any of the guys in my match ever being knocked out and not able to get up, opponents or on my side or whatever. You got potatoed and busted open, but
there's only one story I could think of, and it was someone who I believe right away got help. I think it was from Bobby Fulton. Didn't Kevin Von Erich once have a tag match or a match?
Yes.
And he, for whatever reason, went into a seizure in the match, and Bobby Fulton saved him, or at least helped him.
Yes, and that was in Fort Worth in World Class, and I was not there that night. We weren't in the territory, had just left, whatever the fuck. But yes, they gave him CPR, but that was totally unrelated to wrestling. Just leave that there and not get off track. So you can't fire this is pro wrestling at this level in name only. And bless them for having the desire and determination, but none of these people are ever going to go anywhere in wrestling in OVW right now. Any of it, whether it be referees, announcers, wrestlers, or whatever. And that's why I say if you keep it to body slams and backdrops and cutting promos and running each other's head in the turnbuckle, okay. But when everybody's trying to do the shit they see on TV, people are going to get hurt.
Well, as we said last time, we hope everything goes well for Dallas Edwards. Once again, Stephen P. New, 877-50-STEVE.
Well, and that's one more thing. I don't know, remember whether I mentioned it or not, but the Kentucky Athletic Commission, obviously for years was one of the strictest in the country. And several years ago, they lightened up or changed some of the regulations long after I quit giving a shit about following it closely. But I would almost guarantee you that one of them still is that you have to have insurance. Danny Davis and I had to have an insurance policy on every live event we ran, not only for the lease on the fucking Davis Arena, but to be pro wrestling promoters in the state of Kentucky. So it'll be interesting because I don't think Dallas's mother is happy about again, she knows, well, it's wrestling, but the shit afterwards, she was not happy about. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. But this
it's my show,
isn't it?
It
your show.
The remains of my show. Well, let's talk about Smackdown real quick. On Friday the 13th of March in Phoenix, Arizona, because there, again, 3 hours. So there's going to be a lot of stuff you don't hear about. But we're formulating the WrestleMania card, Brian, at this point for all of the rest of the matches. And as we figured, and as makes sense. Imagine that. We know why these people are mad at each other and why they're having this match, but it's going to be Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu. Because right at the top of the program, Drew comes out through the crowd and he called out Nick Aldis because he got his title stolen from him by your golden boy, Nick Aldis. And Cody probably needs to keep that golden boy in his back pocket when these people turn him heel. Anyway, so fucking Aldis comes out. There's nothing to make right about this. It was one-on-one. You headbutted the referee. You're just playing the victim again because it's the consequences of your actions. And Drew, it was Jacob. This actually has revved him up a little bit more now because remember, he was so whining about getting screwed for so long. It was good, but we wanted to see him win one. Now he won one and got screwed out of it. And he'd go back to doing this again. Cody lost a Rumble. He lost a Chamber and he got all the chances. And then Jacob comes out here and Aldis said, well, the first time one-on-one, he beat you. And Drew got pissed. That's bullshit, which he got bleeped for. And he's like, you got to make this right or else. And then here comes Jacob Fatu's music. And Jacob, I like everything about Jacob, as I've said. I just feel like I think he's more effective as a heel. Even though the people like him, I wouldn't have switched him so quick. I would have let them like him a little while longer. Because now he's got to be, hey, you wouldn't have been champ if not for me, and I fixed the situation. So it's not about Nick or Cody or anybody else, it's me. And the people started whatting him, but because of his style where he only says 3 or 4 words at a time, it worked, and he used it. And then when they gave the payoff, the people popped instead of whatting that. So he got out of that. But I just feel like that the Samoan werewolf should be scary and out of control most of the time instead of the reasonable guy and standing up for. You see what I'm saying, Brian? I wanted to see the wild, crazy guy longer than we got to.
I agree. I completely agree. We got to see him for a short period of time, and a lot of that was tied with the Solo Sikoa group, so
yeah,
he didn't really get a chance to be a top heel as he should have.
And now that he's a top babyface, he's got to sell in the matches, take some of the aura away. Nevertheless, what are you going to do about it, Drew? What are you going to do, boy? What's it going to be, boy? Let me sleep on it. Baby, baby, let me sleep on it. And Drew said, what am I going to do? I'll tell you what, I'm done with all of you. I quit. And he turns around and walks out of the fucking ring. And he leaves the building, allegedly. So all of this is trouble. Drew has quit, Brian, right before WrestleMania.
I agree with you.
Well, go ahead.
I agree with you that Jacob Fatu's better as a heel, and I agree with you that this match makes sense in the traditional sense for WrestleMania, which is still coming together. But I came out of this segment wanting to see Drew against Nick Aldis.
Yeah.
More than I wanted to see Drew against Jacob Fatu.
And it actually would be, and I love Jacob Fatu, but it'd be a better match. And for once we could say that it might be the money too. After it would have more buzz. It up for a couple of weeks. It'd have more buzz.
That's what I'm saying. Like it makes sense that Jacob Fatu and Drew is the WrestleMania match. It's been built up for a while. It makes perfect sense. It doesn't have any buzz. If all of a sudden it was all this, and again, I don't know how you walk yourself back from that afterwards. I'm just saying this was my thought.
Oh, they can't now.
This was my thought watching it. With all this, there'd be buzz. They've never seen him really do anything physical. On this show, he really kind of went at it a little bit with Drew, and then Randy actually threw him down. But that was my thought. The Jacob Fatu and Drew makes sense. I'm sure it'll be fine, but there's no buzz. Like, I'm not excited for it at all.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Should we skip ahead? Because it wasn't the main event, Jacob's match. So since we're on this train of thought, way, way, way later in the evening, about fucking 2.5 hours later, Jacob wrestled Trick Williams. And Jacob, he did a shine at the start and he beat up Trick. And then when they went to break, Trick stopped him for a minute. As soon as they came back, Jacob took back over. And Trick stopped him again. The match was not electrifying. It was just kind of here and there. First I'm beating you up, then you're beating me up. Jacob is great. But again, I think it's early in his overall WWE career to see him selling for, a guy. And I know they're pushing Trick. I'm not saying don't just squash Trick. I'm saying, was this maybe the pairing to make? Was it a style clash? But it didn't have a lot of oomph. And then Jacob was kicking the shit out of him and about ready to beat him. And there's Drew suddenly shows up and hits Jacob and runs him into the ring post and rolls him in the ring. And Trick hits 2 knee lifts with that's his finish, his whatever they call it. I think the reason why he hit 2 was because he botched the first one, because it was just flummoxed in some fashion. 1, 2, 3. So now the werewolf is laying there, has been turned into fucking Larry Talbot, and Drew comes in, stands over him, gets set, and when he stands up, gives him a big claymore. Boom! Now he's down again. I'm like, ah. And Brian, again, a lot of people are going to say, oh, fucking Cornette, goddamn Jesus Christ. But I still envision Jacob being used as the same way that we used, and of course he was 30 years older than Jacob, but the Mongolian Stomper in Knoxville. When he comes out, it's fucking 8 minutes of chaos. There can be blood. If he's with a main event guy, the main event guy can beat him up for a while and he can fucking cause chaos, but one way or another, it's quick. And whether he gets beat, we never beat the Stomper because it was a different point. It was a legend. He wasn't a full-time guy. But whether he gets beat or whether he goes over, you never just see him laying there just fucking helpless. What do you think?
I agree with that assessment. I don't think Jacob Fatu has been booked well since they turned him babyface. I think he's talking too much, even though he doesn't say that much. You shouldn't hear him. He should be kind of the maniac, which is kind of how he was first presented when he got over. Trick Williams is a priority, clearly, and the fans are into him. I didn't like the match. No, I shouldn't say I didn't like the match. The match was just, I don't even know how to say it. It was a SmackDown match.
It was just there.
There were going to be commercials, and, it's a SmackDown match. You're waiting for the angle. And you got it with Drew. Like I said, I'm not excited for the match at WrestleMania. Jacob Fatu really has to kick his ass after the way he got laid out here. And
but then we beat Drew for the belt and then beat him on pay-per-view. So
I don't know, but I think maybe they don't know either. That'd be my guess.
Well, we'll check back in with all of those folks. Otherwise, the first, let's see, what was that? About hour and a half, besides the ladies' business and the Wyatt's business, they're doing something with Sammy, and it's been going on for a few weeks now, where he's always talking to his friends, in the back, the Randy Ortons and the Cody Rhodeses, and he's always saying the wrong thing because everybody's getting the idea that Sammy's jealous. Because he does bring up, well, you got this chance, you got that title, and so Cody thinks he's looking for a title shot. And Sammy says, I can't believe you think that low of me, that I would try to backdoor that. Hey, I love Randy. I look up to Randy. I don't look up to you, Cody. And people went, ooh, because we're friends. Friends are equals. So don't talk down to me. And fucking Cody kind of tells him off and it gets indignant and leaves. And Sammy gets pissed. He's always getting pissed and slapping something like a cup of water or whatever over. And then Malachi Black comes in and stirs the shit. So Sammy may be the guy that somehow gets used in helping soften the blow when either Cody or Randy or some of these other people have to drop the fall. You see where I'm going with you? You smell what I'm cooking, Brian?
It's the most interesting stuff Sammy's done in a while. He's obviously been more heelish. But with that said, like the confrontations with him and Cody almost came across more heelish. He immediately shut Sammy down and started kind of yelling at him.
Yeah. Well, but the same token, they're formatting this to where it's always Sammy saying this thing at a time when the other guy's conflicted and thinking about stuff, and he could be short-tempered and snap and whatever. So that's kind of cool. But at the same time, they're building up in Sammy's mind, whether the resentment or the jealousy or the whatever, that this is legitimate. He just can't say the right thing. Everything's always going wrong. But he's doing a great job with it.
Yeah, it has to go somewhere. I mean, if it goes with him having a run as a crazy heel who will do anything, then it pays off. But post-WrestleMania, this has to go somewhere.
Well, it might go somewhere before WrestleMania. That's what I'm saying, because if they need to use him to get something done and give another guy an out, then it just remains to be seen how they're going to do that. And then we got some more girls stuff and Garza stuff and then here's Miz in a hallway. Brian, he's getting ready for his big Miz TV segment. And as he's walking down, all of a sudden, here's our boy Danhausen. You know, I can see why the people want to buy the shirt, Brian. It's just a bright colored shirt.
It's a good looking shirt.
Good looking shirt. So he's trying to give Miz the Danhausen t-shirt to wear with his Miz TV that night. And Miz, like, you've got a shirt already? Doesn't everyone? In your first week in the WWE? My first day. And then he pitched, maybe he could have his own TV show. Apparently he's not listening to us because he didn't want it to be Damn That Danhausen. He wanted it to be Good Nighthausen with Danhausen. And that could replace Miz TV. And of course, Miz is not happy about that and starts to bow up at him. And guess what? He gets cursed. And then Danhausen disappears again. You know what they ought to do? When they're shooting the two of them, Brian, right? The cameraman. And the guy that is being talked to by Danhausen, he always looks away for a second in exasperation and then looks back and Danhausen's gone.
Yeah, and the cameraman follows their face as opposed to the full frame.
Yes. But at the same time, the camera stays there and you never see that Danhausen has completely disappeared. He could have just turned left, right? Here's what next time to jazz it up, if they had the shot and when the guy turns away or they get the close up of him and he turns back and Danhausen is gone, if Danhausen just did a drop down on his stomach, the cameraman could go 360 all the way around at eye level and he's completely fucking disappeared. Why don't they do that?
You see, you're getting into it. You're now fantasy booking Danhausen segments.
No, I'm fantasy producing television because these sumbitches these days don't know how to do it right.
You're a Fanhausen.
I'm a fucking producer-hausen.
All right.
And anyway.
Did you see the Rhea Ripley Jade stuff?
Oh, yes. I skipped that over with the other girls stuff. Because Jade cut a pretty good promo. She was better this time when she was alone in the ring rather than looking at somebody. And then she calls Rhea out, or Rhea comes out, or Rhea's music plays, so she has to appear. And she walks in the ring, and Jade gets out of the ring, and Rhea says, well, I'm going to fucking make you my bitch. The end. Do they not trust them into not going into business for themselves if they just let them go out there and just lay into each other a little bit or whatever, or it's just something?
Oh, I don't know if I would. Would you? Would you trust Jade Cargill? Just go out there and say what you feel. Just go out there and say what you want.
Well, but in a battle of ad-libs, I might go with Ripley because Jade has always been written for. So is Rhea, but she seems like she gets it a little better.
That's what I'm saying. If you give if you give Jade a mic and say, just go out there and say what you want, she would cut down the locker room as a shoot, not realizing it, and piss everyone off.
Well, I mean, you only have to tell her, just talk about Rhea. You wouldn't have her just tell us how you feel about everybody.
I'm saying
you wouldn't do that.
It would end up there anyway, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
Smackdown, a great Smackdown. Trying to get to this fucking main event. Did you watch Miz TV?
Yes, that's where I was going. Miz TV was up next after Miz was cursed by Danhausen. And then he was actually, now that I think about it, was that the reason why the microphone didn't work?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Obviously, it didn't work for a second. It was a funny moment, but
actually, I think it was just serendipitous. I think the microphone really quit working, and they gave him another one, and that was fine. But it was funny that he got cursed and went out, and his microphone went out. I think he's cursed because he ends up on the wrong side of Jimmy Jam or Jelly Jam or whatever his fucking thing is, and blah blah blah. But nevertheless, his Miz TV is with Jelly Roll. Remember our friend Jelly Roll? He's okay. Well, fuck that fat fucking tattooed faced ex-convict motherfucker. After I again have seen a picture of him hugging the vile, wretched hag that is Christy Nome. I have no reason whatsoever to like this guy to balance out that type of offensive behavior. I don't know anything about his music. I don't like his fucking tattoos. And he's a fucking criminal. So fuck him. But having said that.
Well, criminals could be reformed. He's a reformed criminal. Now he's just a musical. Now he's just a musical criminal putting out awful music.
Well, then he wouldn't be hugging a current criminal. And now we see what kind of person he really is behind this facade of all shucks.
Well, no, but if you shake Al Capone's hand, that doesn't mean you're mixed up with him.
He was hugging her and smiling.
If you hug Al Capone and smile, it doesn't mean you're associated with him. It just means you know him. Hey.
Right before you bow down and kiss his fucking ring.
What do you think of Jelly Roll now that he's not... I mean, he's still a bigger guy, but... he's not imposing in any way now. Now he's just like a big guy with tattoos, not a fat guy or anything else.
Well, but can you imagine what if you took off the baggy clothes, he's got to look like a deflated truck stop novelty condom now. So when you've made that drastic of a goddamn transition, there's still all kinds of work to be done. He's going to have some of those. Maybe he can have that stuff sliced off and sell it by the pound.
Should he change his name to Ozempic Roll?
That's not bad.
Get a sponsorship out of it.
But then the thing is, what if it's a gypsy curse? And he keeps, Ozempic wouldn't want to be involved if he keeps losing weight. And it ends up that sooner or later, his bone structure collapses under the weight of all the skin, and he's just jelly blob.
Again, there's a lot of options. I mean, this is good fantasy booking. These are good ideas. But back to...
Well, let's get back to the idea that they had.
Jelly Roll's confrontation with The Miz, who towered over Jelly Roll, and I was pretty sure would kick Jelly Roll's ass.
Jelly Roll was trying to cut a big-time wrestling promo, because this is fantasy camp for him. He would have never got the time of day from anybody in the wrestling business, and until suddenly he, for some reason, became a music star, and now they're all falling all over themselves, tripping over their dicks to fucking make nice to him. But he really fucking cut a fucking wrestling promo, and he and Miz went back and forth. And then suddenly Kit Wilson came out. I didn't want to like this to begin with, and I was starting to halfway get into the argument. And here comes this Nimrod. And Kit Wilson does his thing, although he did mention the face tattoos and the criminal charges, and you're building a brand on bad behavior, and you're fat phobic and you're toxic. And he should have said, how long has it been since you've seen your dick? Jelly Roll could have said, a long time.
There's literally been articles in the newspaper about Jelly Roll not being able to, like his dick not functioning well because of his girth for a long time. In the newspaper.
Kit could have said, if you haven't seen your dick in that long, why don't you dye it? Jelly Roll could have said, what color is it now?
All right.
So let's
get back to this.
Kit shoved Jelly And Miz was holding Kit back like, don't kill him. And Jelly swung and Kit ducked and Jelly nailed Miz. And Kit ran off and the Miz lay dead in the ring for one punch from a formerly fat fucking country music star.
Who didn't get like an overwhelming big pop. It's not like Cyndi Lauper in 85. Like,
no, I wrote the last two words I wrote were few care.
Yeah. When the Miz went down, it was a great shot from the side where you can kind of see the crowd. Like no one jumped, no one clapped, no one reacted. There was no audible noise. Big country star just punched a heel. No one cared.
Except
WWE, because they kiss this guy's ass because they think he's a bigger star than their stars, and they want that involved with their company.
But that's the thing. I don't know where this going now for a match between Jelly Roll and Miz, because if they'd have kept it, I'll just say this, we'll move on. If they'd have kept it between Jelly and Miz, the way that they were going at start before Kit Wilson came out, then if they'd have still fucking had Jelly deck Miz, I would have wanted to see a match between them. But once Kit came out, I think that's another thing that just deflated everybody, because now we really know this ain't important. And it was just like, and he just, because it's just stupid. It's underneath Gaga from the Vince era.
That was the way the promo sounded. Because Jelly Roll, I think, did a great job of reciting whatever they wanted him to recite. And Miz, his specialty is WWE style scripts.
Yeah.
But it sounded so fake. Like Jelly Roll saying all these things, you could see that he's really trying to emote and be into it. He's trying to do a good promo. He has seen them. He's trying to do one, but you don't believe the words that are coming out of his mouth because they're corporate speak. Or it's just not natural the way he's saying it. I actually think Kit Wilson's the best part of the whole thing.
Oh, come on.
I've enjoyed him since his partner got hurt, sadly, and left, or is healing, whatever.
Sadly and left.
Well, I feel bad. Since his partner got hurt, he's been a lot better.
Comes back. Yeah.
Well, since that guy got hurt,
thank goodness that guy got hurt.
He's been more enjoyable since his partner got hurt. He's been more
enjoyable since we got rid of that dead weight. Boy, people think I'm hard-hearted.
What do you think of Miz versus Jelly Roll at WrestleMania?
I guess that's what we're going to see. But again, I'd preferred they didn't put the other guy in the build-up. But I hope Miz just taters him. Just right in his fat tattooed face. But now it's time for the main event, Brian. And we're not talking about a wrestling match. No, because we're talking about a real main event with stars that are going to talk to each other. It's time for them to sign the contract with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. Punk and Roman is the World Championship. This is the WWE Championship. This is undisputed. But by the very nature of the word undisputed, wouldn't Punk and Roman both be disputing that? Do we want to get down that rabbit hole?
Any other world champion anywhere would be a disputed champion by that logic. Yeah.
Yes. But nevertheless, so Cody comes, again, both of them are baby faces and have been presented as friends and etc. And they hugged and shook hands at the start of the thing, but there were big Randy chants. And Randy has got to the icon leveled where they don't want to fucking boo him no matter what he's really doing. Every once in a while, as we've seen with some of these top baby faces start getting pointed with each other, the people will kind of sit there. They won't agree either way, or they'll kind of, ooh. But nevertheless, Cody cut the big promo. His first WWE match was against Randy Orton. He had seen Randy's success. He wanted to be just like him. And when he came back to WWE, he didn't bring his brother, he didn't bring his wife. He was alone, but he had Randy Orton. And I'm proud to be your boy. And he signed the contract right off the bat, Cody did. And happy to do it. And the fans are chanting, "Thank you, Orton." And then Randy starts to sign, but he stands up and he says, "Cody, you don't understand. I need that." He's pointed at the belt. This was supposed to be Drew. Uh-oh. And again, Cody said, "Hey, Randy, let me take that burden away from you. I expect you to be the legend killer. I expect you to be the guy, the Viper." And he cut the big, excited promo, putting Randy over. And all that, he's done and wants him at his best when the bell rings. And Cody said, "Whatever happens after the bell, Randy, I will always love you." And then Cody kind of nudges him to sign. It puts it in front of him like, "Oh, okay, sign, shake, come in for the hug." And Randy grabs him and runs his head into the fucking table and it kicks him in the balls. And rips his shirt off and throws him out to the floor and pitches him over the desk and hits him with the stairs. And Cody comes up bleeding. He's fucking bleeding from the head. And Orton shoves Aldous down and he's beating on Cody on the desk. And there's people starting to come and he shoves old Jelly Jam down. And the referees, the agents are there. And then Randy started to leave. He's tilted the stairs up to where he's put Cody's head in the V as he lays on the desk. And he starts to leave, but he comes back around, grabs a chair, and hits Cody with the concerto effect where he hit the stairs, but it looked at least a lot better than the fucking concertos do. And the guy's head had already exploded in a puddle of blood, so you couldn't really tell it was bullshit. And then, boom, got in the ring and got the belt and sat on the chair and put it on his lap while everybody else was shocked and disgusted, except for a lot of the fans who are not necessarily unhappy about this.
Well, there's the problem.
But it's not like this is new in that they all know it's a work now. They all know that this is part of the show, and they're going to cheer for, as you've said many times, happenings and moments, or they're just going to cheer for who they fucking want to cheer for because they don't buy the dastardly things that any person is doing to be a heel or to turn heel is their legitimate personality like they did in the old days.
Well, that's true across the board, but I think specifically with this, my thoughts, if you go back the last several months to the reviews we've done of WWE TV, we've said it a bunch of times, they're cooling off Cody. He's not doing anything interesting. He's not really, even though he's like a top guy on one of the shows, he's not in the mix. There's no buzz about Cody right now. The people were so behind him. They like him. Some of them do now, but it's not the same. And
yeah,
I think this is the result of fans almost not happy about it, but it's like a sense of normalcy with Orton turning heel. They reacted more like that than, "Oh my God, he's hurting Cody," which they probably, even though it's a work and they know it, they probably would have reacted differently to this a year ago, a year and a half ago. But Cody has not been booked well since Cena came back. Cody's been booked under, even though he's still one of their top guys. There's not a lot to cheer for. He doesn't give you a lot of reasons. The fired up promos are few and far between. I will say, it's the best job of selling here that I ever saw from Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
And much like his father, he got the maximum impact of looking like he has been killed by this guy.
And it was a great... ripping the shirt off was just a little thing when he did it, when Randy did it, but that way Cody could limp out of there holding that belt, being, attended to by the referees, but not only is he covered in blood, but his clothes have been ripped from him. He just looked like he'd been run over by a car.
See, I'm afraid that you have a little bit of the AEW problem. where AEW fans were totally into Cody when he was their big cheerleader, and they were behind him, and they kind of felt like he was, their guy. And then as AEW went on and they saw the way he was being used, the way he was using himself, but also the way that was an isolated world from everything else on the show, slowly, but then it kind of happened all at once, the fans started turning on him. Even though he didn't turn, he was still good old babyface Cody doing the right thing. The fans turned on him. I'm not saying it's that drastic here, but they were totally into him and behind him. And then he didn't do anything interesting or great since. And, what's cooler? Cody Rhodes right now or Randy Orton turning heel? Getting to see that. What's cooler? That's cooler.
Well, and that's one of the things I said, that golden boy, Cody Rhodes. What do you think? Because it's not like he's going to come out next week and, okay, I'll turn the heel on you now, Randy. They're not going to do that. But as this plays out, depending on what responses they get between now and including at WrestleMania, can you see Cody starting to be a little resentful and I am the golden boy, stuff like that? That might be fun.
Well, he's always pushed back on any talks about turning heel. But at a certain point, especially with the way they're not booking him to be a strong top babyface, and the fans are not reacting that way because he's not being booked that way. If this is a sign of things to come, the Phoenix crowd here, and we've seen little signs of it on different shows, but it seems like there's a growing chorus of people that aren't going to cheer for Cody just because he's the top babyface. He actually has to do something to make them want to cheer him.
And after a couple of years of golden boy Cody Rhodes, well then, what would be a moment like Orton turning heel, Cody turning back babyface? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's all about moments.
Hey, since Randy laid him out, should they have Brandy come in next week and cut a promo on Randy Orton? I think that would be money leading into WrestleMania.
I think they need to do Golden Boy by the week after if Brandy came out and did a promo next week defending Cody.
Oh, come on. Brandy versus Randy on the mic? That's a Smackdown main event.
They're going to have it on open mic night in Norcross.
Open mic night, bitch. That's right.
Yeah. But it's all, the branding. Whether it's the American Nightmare, whether it's the Golden Boy, whether it's the Viper, whether it's the RKO, whatever, it's all about the branding, the brand names, the business potential. Brian, that's what it's about. And if you want to be in business, you better have some potential. And if you don't have any potential, then you better get Shopify. See how I did that there? Just nice and to the point. Because let's just say that you're just a dumb shit. You don't know how to do anything. You got rotten ideas and you need money. Well, that's why you need Shopify, because Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States, it's Shopify. And do you think for a second, ladies and gentlemen, that all these people are just brilliant? No. All those people running those businesses, they're a bunch of stupid fucks just like you. But the difference, that's right, they don't know whether to cross the street in a bicycle or wind their watch. But if they get with Shopify, then Shopify can build them a design studio and accelerate their efficiency and get the word out because of a marketing team, social media campaigns, email campaigns, a commerce expert with world-class expertise and taking money away from people. What more do you need? You can be a complete knucklehead and go to Shopify and just make a fortune. You just got to have one glimmer of a small idea that may be stupid now, but they can figure out some way to make it work.
Well, Jim, of course, most people
watch that kid.
Most people who are knuckleheads probably don't recognize that they are knuckleheads or want to accept that. So why don't we talk to the good businessman out there, the good business lady out there, the people doing their damnedest to make the most money for their business, take care of their family. They need the right partner online like we do. We trust Shopify, and the listeners can too.
You're exactly right. Most people don't realize that they're stupid. So let me elaborate. People, you're stupid. You cannot do this on your own. Don't even try. It's hopeless. You'll be doomed to failure and your family will laugh at you. Get a hold of the people at Shopify right now at shopify.com/JCE, and you can get a $1 a month trial period. Where for only $1 a month, Shopify will show you what they can do for you and how that they can make you look like that you're a competent human being and in charge of your own life and your commerce and destiny. $1 a month trial period if you use that code shopify.com/JCE. And other way, you don't even have to be able to spell. Those are just letters, right? JCE. So you don't even have to be able to spell. You can be just a complete illiterate buffoon.
Why is this the focus today?
Because that's how great Shopify is.
That's why?
Is they can take anybody and make them money. So if you've got $1 that you found in your aunt's couch cushions and you can spell JCE for the code, you can go to shopify.com and get $1 a month trial period. And now you'll finally be able to have your neighbors admit that they live next door to you because you'll have gainful employment. You'll be making money, all because Shopify will show you what the fuck to do. Shopify.
That's right. One more time, Jim, that promo code, that link.
JCE.
Shopify.com/JCE.
Yes. All right, Brian. Well, before we leave today, something has come up, and I had two thoughts, and they met in the middle. Because a few days ago, somebody had tweeted me and just reminded me of this incident we're about to discuss, review, whatever. And then also, we've been talking lately about it. You've got to put some type of meaning behind a match, even if people know who the stars are. As Bill Watts, who we're going to hear from here shortly, said, hey, gentlemen, I know you're all superstars and all the fans know, quote unquote, who you are and what you do, etc. But you can't just say, oh, we've got the international superstar from GLEAT in Japan coming in to wrestle one of our guys. Oh, it's going to be a great match. Oh, what the fuck does that? And when you need to make an impact on a television program in a short period of time to promote something or whatever, we've talked about that. So I thought a good example of a number of these things that we have talked about here on the program relating to wrestling psychology was the time that the Heavenly Bodies and I and the Rock and Roll Express in early 1983 went into WCW when Bill Watts was in charge. We've talked about that before as far as the business deal that we made and why we did that and et cetera. And it was part of a overall thing that I was going to try to do with Smoky Mountain and Watts working together. But we've never actually sat down and talked about how I came up with the idea to do exactly what we did. And when you and I were talking about this earlier off the air, I reminded you that because you mentioned, interpromotional angles or outsider angles. This was 3 years before Hall and Nash showed up on Nitro. But the previous time before this, that there was actually an outsider angle, an invader angle, or so they don't work here angle done was the same place 5 years before that. It was my angle too, when Heyman and the original Midnight came in and jumped us on TV, which led to the line from Jim Ross, they don't even work here, which became synonymous with every time somebody from another promotion showed up to beat the shit out of somebody, people would say, they don't even work here. And of course, like everything else, it was done to death and prostituted and with varying degrees of success based on execution after that. But the only promotion, U.S.-based promotion that WCW worked with after Turner Broadcasting bought it from Crockett was Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They did the New Japan crossovers. They did the AAA pay-per-view kind of, but no other U.S.-based company. And The same thing actually could be said for the WWF. We showed up there, later on that same year with the same match. But it's all about the universe that exists in WCW or in WWF or in any promotion. You can't just take for granted that everybody knows what had gone on in other places. You always have to explain it to your fans and make it important on your program. Does that point get across, Brian?
It gets across as you're saying it. I don't know how much it gets across in modern day wrestling.
Well, but that's anyway. So when trying to put this angle together in my mind to sell to Bill Watts on why should you pay me and us to do this thing, Watts came into WCW to reduce the expenses and get the house shows, the pay-per-views, and the ratings back up. Everything good, he need to get up. Everything bad, he need to get down. So what do I have that would be an asset to him and his national television program? Well, I have the Rock and Roll Express working for me in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I don't think it's an inflammatory comment to say that they were the most popular tag team in the WCW and TBS promotion and television show for the previous 10 years at that point, and they still held the record for the highest rated Sunday night TBS wrestling program they'd ever aired. So I've got the Rock and Roll Express. The fans in WCW know them, but they have not seen them together in WCW in about 2 years at that point. I've got me and Stan Lane, who, as part of the Midnight Express, were on WCW's television programming for 5 straight years every week, but had been gone for a little over 2 years since Stan and I walked out. And that had never been explained on WCW television because they didn't do that back then. When we walked out, they just fucking next week, Bobby was a single and the fans never knew. Now, the smart fans did because they read the newsletters. But Brian, as we've mentioned, there were vast numbers fewer smart fans in 1993 than in 2026. They still numbered in the thousands by that point, but it wasn't like today where it's literally you can click on the internet and find out anything. So that had never been resolved for the WCW audience, or at this point, what was left of it. But we had been part of one of the biggest grossing tag teams that had worked there again in the previous decade. But now I have a new team because Watts still has Bobby Eaton. He's under contract, and I have Stan Lane and Tom Pritchard, the Heavenly Bodies in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. But because Watts knew that Bobby had not been used well, he said, hey, I'm going to give him to you for 90 days. And he can work for you in Smoky Mountain. And with that way, when he comes back, we can freshen him up. And then I believe it wasn't long after that, he went into later that year. Was that the Dangerous Alliance? Whatever the fuck. Point is.
Year before, nevertheless. So now I've got Bobby again, but we can combine our forces. So the point is we have an attraction. Plus I have a promotion that can supply videotape and we can make this thing sound legitimate. So I said, all right. And this is what I pitched to Watts. And this is what, as you will see when we play this interview in a second, we ended up doing. I said, what about, it wouldn't be out of the way, it wouldn't be, people wouldn't raise red flags if you announced on WCW Saturday Night, ladies and gentlemen, next week, we're going to see one of the most popular tag teams in the history of WCW, the Rock and Roll Express. They're currently appearing in the Tennessee-based Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but they're going to be making appearances here, and we're happy to see them again. We know all the fans will look forward to seeing them next week, but here's some tape of the Rock and Roll Express. And the tape they play is from Smoky Mountain Wrestling, credited, right? But
All the whole footage is just the Rock and Roll Express just beating the shit out of Stan Lane and Tom Pritchard, the Heavenly Bodies, and me going, oh my God. And they don't say that. They don't even mention it. They just, here's the tape of the Rock and Roll Express. And then the following week, I think maybe they did an interview or whatever the fuck. But the point is, within a week or two, in the middle of a program where it's been announced that now the Rock and Roll Express is going to be there live and they're going to wrestle. They're going to wrestle Tex Slazenger and Shanghai Pierce, which, Brian, as you'll remember, they ended up being Henry and Phineas Godwin in a later life.
That's right.
But that was false booked. They were never going to have that match. That's what Watts put on the format for him to advertise. And nobody knew. And I'm talking about the boys didn't know, and a lot of the crew didn't know that Tom Pritchard, Stan Lane, and I were going to be at center stage that day to do this angle. They didn't put it on the format. Watts knew, Jim Ross knew, and a couple other people that had to knew. But otherwise, they didn't put it on the format. They didn't advertise it. And it didn't get out that we were going to be there because, again, there were sheets, but we didn't tell anybody. And we got there that day at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon at center stage and were escorted by I think it was one of the referees, might it have been, was Nick Patrick still there? Nevertheless, to a goddamn utility closet where we sat there all afternoon and only spoke to Jim Ross and Bill Watts. But basically the deal would be that when they've come back from a commercial break while Jim Ross is about to do a pitch, suddenly Jim Cornette, Stan Lane, and Bobby Eaton and Tom Pritchard come in the front door of center stage, like where the fans come in, and start walking down the stairs. And as the people see us, and we were dressed like ourselves and had a tennis racket, so it didn't take long, they start reacting, and JR looks up and go, well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what's going on here, blah, blah, blah. And our whole bone of contention is that we are pissed off at what happened last week when they showed that tape, that Stan Lane and I walked out of this company 2 years ago because they were trying to make the Midnight Express look like idiots. And what happens? We watched TV last week and you're doing the same thing to the Heavenly Bodies, making us look like idiots. I called for Bill Watts to come out. And Watts and I have the confrontation. And it's a chance for us to use some of our old material from 10 years before in the last Stampede. But also, Watts, as the authority figure, says, you people don't work here, so I can't book your matches or fine you or whatever, but I'll call the cops if you disrupt our television program again. And I goad him a little bit more. And that's when the Rock and Roll Express come out. They're pissed off. They're not even dressed to wrestle yet. Their match is later in the program. And again, the way that little things that you can throw in that I learned from Watts, so both of us would have done this, is he said, we can't book your matches. You don't work here. It's not like he can just make a match, but he offered the ring. And that's the little loophole that, okay, well, this ain't all bullshit. He just said, well, if you want to settle it, do it in front of us and we'll watch. And at the same time, when you hear my promo, yes, the smart fans may have known that we left because they were disrespecting the Midnight Express, but it was never explained to the audience. So I explain why Stan and I left, where we've been, what we're doing now, and why we're there tonight because we're pissed about this thing. And it flows kind of naturally and logically. And then when the promo is over with, we've jumped in and we do the match. Well, I will stop before we get there to analyze what's been said. But you will also notice a couple of spots that there is no audio in the middle of an argument. And Brian, you know, that's my problem with old Eric Bischoff, old Eazy-E, when he was blamed to me by somebody that I trusted for being one of the people who decided to edit the thing. Because I had told Watts, I'm going to say that we didn't have a script. We told each other, here's my story. And Bill, well, here's what I'll say. And it always changes, but that's the point of the thing. But one thing I did say, I'm going to say, I hated Jim Herd with a passion, and I'm not too fond of you. Because that's another one of those little lines that would make people think he's really telling the truth. And another one was that I would say, well, we'll just settle it with you, rock and roll. We'll settle it with you Friday night in Knoxville. And then Watts was going to say, we don't care what you do where our fans can't see it. If you want to do something like that, but they bleeped out my plug for Knoxville. So that's what I was pissed about the editing of this thing, because it was two of the lines that made it sound like we were trying to get away with something. So never the questions before we go into this thing, Brian.
Well, I mean, you were incredibly detailed there. I don't have too many questions before we go into it, but this is kind of the beginning of Eric Bischoff's run as executive producer in WCW. He really takes over once Watts is out, and Jim Ross. This is one of the last things Jim Ross did in WCW too. Jim Ross, who chose to wear a suit that matched the background. The gray and purple WCW logo behind him, the same colors as his suit. It's an interesting look. But this was an interesting time in WCW. A lot of things happening, a lot of things changing. Ric Flair about to come back. And like I said, Eric Bischoff just starting to gain some power. In terms of the editing, you aired, didn't you air the unedited one on Smoky Mountain TV?
I edited it also because it was a 12-minute segment, and we, trimmed it up to fit our television program. The promo and the match all together is 12 minutes. But I don't know whether I got a copy of the I don't know if there was a copy of the unedited.
Huh.
Because I got it from them. Because when I didn't know that they'd edited it until I watched it on television when it aired. And then I called Watts. I was like, what the fuck? They told him at first it was a directional microphone, didn't pick some shit up. And I had been doing production even then, more than Bill had been in a production studio at that point, because I was actually doing it all at Tennessee Production Center practically myself. And I said, no, they muted the fucking audio on the microphone track. But nevertheless, we're in the weeds.
Who told you that it was Bischoff that did that, or told someone to do that?
It was Bischoff and Tony Schiavone were the ones that were in the room at the time, and I was led to believe that it was Bischoff that was the ringleader, and
Schiavone just is always happy to go along with the flow.
I'm trying to remember who it was that told me now. Because it was, I don't want to finger anybody unnecessarily.
Did you see Dusty? Because he was booking, technically.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, oh yes, and everything was fine there. Remember, that's when by the time that we got to the pay-per-view Super Brawl, Watts was gone, and remember I'd said that time to one of the referees that. When we came in, he said, "Oh, good to see you back." I said, "Well, don't pull up no chairs and we ain't staying," or something like that. And Dusty sent him over and said, "Hey, Dusty wants to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." We snuck over and I said, What's up, Dusty?" He said, "Do we have heat?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you told the guy you wasn't going to be staying." I said, "Well, we're not going to be staying now. Watts is gone. Dusty, if you had his job, I love you, but you don't have his job." There's people that were even telling him what to fucking do. So it's the same situation. We're going back to Knoxville.
But did you see Dusty that first night when you were at the center stage taping?
Not beforehand, because we never left that fucking closet. Maybe afterwards. I'm trying to think. Probably afterwards.
If there was a different executive who had the exact same run as Bill Watts and everything went exactly the same, and he came in with the same skeletons in his closet, whatever you want to say, everything's the same. It's just not Bill Watts. And he gets fired / quits, whatever. Same thing. But if it wasn't Bill Watts, does Jim Ross leave WCW, or does Jim Ross stay with WCW for the next 10 years?
Well, he wouldn't have left then. I don't know how long he would have stayed. He wouldn't have left then because he got painted as Bill Watts' boy. And suddenly, even though he'd been there for the previous 5 or 6 years, because Watts comes in for 4 months, the JR was tainted goods and couldn't be trusted anymore now that Watts is gone. So they tried to make him the guy traveling around syndicating the TV show to local stations in Ottumwa, Iowa. And he said, okay, fuck that. And he went to work for Vince.
Well, again, this was WCW Saturday Night, February 6, 1993. And I know we have some audio here we can play. And this is a long segment, like you said. There's the promo, there's the build-up, there's the promo, and then eventually a match. We're going to do the first half today, and we will return next time with the second half. But you've given us the build-up. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And I was just going to say, and when the promo starts, it's JR doing his pitch, and then there's some element of silence and crowd noise because we are emerging into the arena where they can see us, and then we'll let that bad boy run for a little while and see how it goes. I may jump in.
That should be a tremendous tournament, ladies and gentlemen, to determine a new world television champion. Those 16 men competing not only on worldwide wrestling, but on the main event as well. And the main event, as I said, will return right here to TBS tomorrow at 6:05 Eastern Time. Now, don't forget, later in this broadcast, the big one-on-one matchup involving Sting and Barry Windham. After what happened here last week, we know that situation is certainly going to be a war. Also still to come, we're going to talk more about Super Brawl, the big pay-per-view event. Oh, wait just a second. I don't really believe what I'm seeing. There's Jim Cornette and the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the Heavenly Bodies. And what an unexpected situation this is. This is not Smoky Mountain.
There's some nice traffic out on Peachtree. Why don't all of you go play in it? You know, I got a problem, Jim Ross, and I got some people here to back me up tonight. And I want to see somebody that don't answer their telephone calls out here. Yeah, I know where the camera is. I don't care if it's on TV or not. I want to see Bill Watts. Bill Watts don't answer his telephone. Bill Watts is a big executive. Bill Watts don't return his calls. Well, I don't like being ignored. I want to see Bill Watts out here face to face. And if I don't get it, we ain't going to leave. If you got anybody can move us, please try. Please try, because I'm ready for some big trouble here tonight, brother.
Well, I think Cowboy Bill Watts is here. He may be busy right now, Jim.
What is he? What is he out riding a horse, huh? Come on, Marshall Dillon. I know you're right here somewhere. I want to see Bill Watts right here face to face. Big man, big executive. Yeah. There we go. Oh, yeah.
Let me pause it there for a second, Jim, because there's a lot going on, and obviously it goes on for a while here. You come out there, you throw the barricade against the ring, and then you guys storm out there. An interesting look from Bobby Eaton, the colorful shirt with the gray blazer. But what are your first thoughts hearing this back?
Well, that's the thing is we wanted to cause a stir, and at the same point, first of all, the reason why JR got to pitch so much is because they literally had to run and get us out of the closet and take us out the side door and around the front so we could come through. And the one guy was supposed to lead us, and he fucking led us into the building and then didn't tell us exactly which way to turn for the door. Nevertheless, then when we get down there, we've got to call Watts out, but he doesn't come right out like he's been sitting there waiting on it. You see what I'm saying? He gives it a second, like he could plausibly have been interrupted going, there's a situation you got to go to. And then boom, out he comes, and we get up, my nose to his chin.
You know what else it did? It gave people at home before the internet time to call people and say, Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express are on TBS.
Yeah.
Because it was a big deal. I remember watching this. Let's go back to the audio.
Look, he's so tall, the top of his head comes through his hair. Big executive, big man, big vice president, big Cowboy Bill Watts. You got a problem with the phones, huh, at CNN, huh? You got a problem with the telephones? You don't want to talk to Jim Cornette? I walked out on this stinking company for less than you. Let me tell you something, I got a problem, and I'm going to explain this. Matter of fact, I'll tie one half of my brain behind my back where we'll be even, okay? I walked out of here and so did Stan Lane 2 years ago. because the people that run this crummy, stinking company tried to make the Midnight Express look like a bunch of idiots.
There's the herd line.
We left.
Well, let's pause it there for a second. So that was a choice that was made post-production by Eric Bischoff and Tony Schiavone to mute that line, although you could obviously still hear some audio. It just conveniently drops out.
Yes, see, we were on the PA system, so the ambient microphones in the arena picked it up slightly, but they dropped the handheld that I was on.
All right, back to the audio.
Crummy, stinking company tried to make the Midnight Express look like a bunch of idiots. We left. We took and we found Dr. Tom Pritchard, and we formed another tag team, the Heavenly Bodies, and we went to Smoky Mountain Wrestling, where they appreciate wrestling talent, and we became the tag team champions of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And then all of a sudden, like some kind of cancer, the Rock and Roll Express reoccurs. And they come and they steal our tag team belts. And before we can do anything about that, I'm sitting at home in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm watching television, and I turn on in front of God and everybody on national TV. You're showing a bunch of videotape of the Rock and Roll Express beating our brains out. Well, let me tell you, shut up.
And there go the chants.
Let me tell you something right now, Bill Watts. I ain't gonna stand for it. I broke up the Midnight Express because I didn't want TBS to make them look like idiots. And we don't even work here. So I called
hold on.
Bobby.
There was another one.
Yeah.
Where I said I broke up the Midnight Express because I didn't want them to look like idiots. And then they muted something, which I don't even remember. That this was part of the explanation to make it sound legitimate that we were really pissed about the way that things were going. This wasn't a wrestling angle, but go ahead.
And brought him back to the phone, a man you've misused and abused for 2 years here. And we got our tag team belts back. And now what I want from you is a public apology, Watts, to all those people that you showed that videotape to. I want a public apology for trying to embarrass us, make us look like clowns. And if I don't get it,
Oh, let me pause it here because you can't hear it. They muted you saying you're going to sue everyone.
That's right.
Here.
That's another thing. Yes, I said, do you remember, Brian, the last Stampede, when I said, if I don't get my way, it was Watts' material. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue Mid-South Wrestling. If you show that tape again, I'm going to sue everybody. That's what started our argument to begin with, right? And I'd said then also, I said, I'm going to sue everybody and blah, blah, blah. And Bill's waiting there, and he's reacting and he's smirking and he's doing his Bill Watts thing. And when I give him the finger poke in the fucking chest, that's when he snatches my hand and makes the comeback. But I'm building this whole fucking thing for him to be able to make the fucking comeback, and they're chopping it up in post-production. But anyway, nevertheless, and I don't remember what my exact words were, but it was not any profanity. They just didn't want anybody threatening to sue fucking. It's so goddamn work on the wrestling show, but they were so lawsuit conscious because they had to pay everyone that was filed against them. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, they made it seem worse than it was. They made it seem like you.
Yeah, I was like, I was going fuckity McFuck.
but I raised such a big stink about this that before it's over with, you're going to be swabbing out toilets in CNN and popping popcorn in the TV.
First of all, sissy, keep your hands off of me because I don't want to have my blood tested.
Now, hold on. That's a heavy line.
Exactly. Exactly. But did you just the people when he grabbed my hand, the people came up and first of all, sissy, and they blew. We could have worked that for a goddamn another 3 months if we'd all been there, and we could have worked on pay-per-view and it would have drawn me and him for fuck's sake. Go ahead.
There's never been a man that delivers the word sissy the way Bill Watts. He spits it out. Sissy.
Yes. Like it tastes bad in his mouth.
and he's going to need a blood test because you touching him or whatever it was would cause him to get AIDS, is what he's trying to say.
I don't want to have my blood tested. Don't touch me.
Straighten one thing out, you've run your mouth. There's a lot of people I'd apologize to, but you're not one of them. Everything we showed on this program, we had all the releases and all the clearances, and we've been working hand in glove with Bob Armstrong, who's the commissioner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. You're the biggest mouth there, but you don't carry a lot of weight. Wait a minute. You do carry a lot of weight. And it's still in the same place it always was. You're kind of egg-shaped. But we've got clearances for what we show. Wait a minute.
We want to, we'll do whatever
Now I'm
we
jumping
want.
in to piss him off a little bit more so he'll fire up more at me.
You don't work for us, so I can't find you, and we're not signing your magic. But the next time you butt in on our show, I'll have Doug Dillinger and Atlanta's finest walk your little right down to the Crossbar Hotel, and we'll put you in jail.
I'll tell you who you ought to put in jail. You ought to have the Rock and Roll Express arrested for murder. They came out here last week and killed your ratings. You bring them out here like Henry Kissinger at a state dinner, sitting them there, slapping us in the face. They're losers. We beat them.
Here comes the rock and roll.
Obviously, a lot of yelling and screaming back and forth here. And I have to say, because I was watching regularly at this time, this was more exciting than just about everything happening in WCW for a pretty long while at this point.
Well, and because it was not only, it was new, it was fresh. Oh, we haven't seen these people in a while, but we got into a goddamn argument that people started listening to and got into, and then these other guys come out, and it just keeps escalating. That's the way it's supposed to be. There's why I said do something about it in Knoxville.
Wait a minute. Y'all don't even come out here and talk about a bunch of stuff that's happening where our fans don't even know and don't care. But I'll say one thing here we've established. That ring right out there is neutral ground. And I'll tell you, if you guys want to get your tails out there, we'll let you settle. Why don't you get in that ring and hook them out?
We're not dressed. We don't have tights. We're not. What are you doing?
Let's get a referee out here. Let's get a referee.
Hey, we're not scared. We're not dressed.
Let me tell you, don't let that hold you back. You're not dressed too well anyway. Watch us get on in there. They're ready.
Okay, and now Ricky and Robert they've taken their watches and their necklace off. They're in the ring in their street clothes. The midnight/bodies are scrambling around. I'm like, okay. And Stan's taking his watch off. And the people's, yeah, we want to see this shit. And I mean, I don't know why it's hard to understand. Even if they know if we'd have just come out, or if they had just come out 2 weeks beforehand and said, hey, the Rock and Roll Express are wrestling the Heavenly Bodies in Knoxville a bunch, and we're going to have them here next week or whatever, and they're going to have a match. Oh, that's interesting. But when they don't expect it and we bring it in and we explain it to them and we get them behind the whole fucking premise and then we goddamn gin up the controversy. Well, you want to see it now? Goddamn, yes, we do. Well, here we go. And it for smart fans or non-smart fans alike, it was believable because now they all understood it. The non-smart fans, which there was still more of them than not, and I'm not talking about just who knows wrestling's a work, but where did everybody go and why? Arguments with management. We had to explain that. And then there you go.
Well, there you go. And once again, WCW Saturday Night, February 6, 1993. And a lot of wind behind me. We could only do so much in post-production with that. But Jim, will pick this up next time on the drive-thru with a watch-along of the Heavenly Bodies and the Rock and Roll Express on Saturday night.
Yes, and I will preface that by saying, like I said, we had a 12-minute segment. That interview was probably about 5 or 6. So we had about another 6 minutes. And we did basically the same thing that we did when the Midnight first faced the Rock and Roll Express on Mid-South Television. We just gave them a trailer for it because we didn't want to have the best match we could possibly have. We wanted to have an exciting match to reintroduce the Rock and Roll Express and introduce the Heavenly Bodies, and then end with a disputed finish and some heat that would lead to Bill Watts and Commissioner Bob Armstrong of Smoky Mountain Wrestling getting together to bring the match for the Smoky Mountain Tag Team Championship to their WCW viewers on Super Brawl from Asheville, North Carolina, which also happened to be right in the middle of Crockett territory. And that's where the fans would want to see it. So we'd help the live gate too. And so therefore, as you said, we're going to watch along the match on the drive-through, but we're going in the ring to do 5 or 6 minutes of action as a tease to make them want to see the full match rather than having a 20-minute match that with everything we can do and what else we going to do. And the people were standing the whole fucking time. More on that on the drive-through.
That's right. We will return on the drive-through. This episode also has when, oh my God, I remember this. When I talk about how bad things were. Again, you look, you see all this talent, like things must have been good. Steve Austin, Brian Pillman, Barry Windham, Sting, Ron Simmons. But it was just a kind of dead feeling a lot of the time. This is the episode they have Eric Watts when he gets into a fight with Arn Anderson at the gas station.
Oh, good Lord, yes.
And puts him in an STF at the gas station.
At the gas station next to the pump. I remember that.
Because that's what you would do if you were in a fight. You would try to put someone in an STF. It was the most ridiculous thing ever, and it did not help the fans. They still booed Eric Watts no matter what.
And to be honest, and the talent was great. But Steamboat and Shane Douglas were the babyface tag team champions then. But when we went to their TV tapings and did the 8-man with the Bodies and Austin and Pillman against the Rock and Roll and Steamboat and Shane, the people spent the whole match chanting rock and roll, rock and roll. Because they were fresh again. And because it was new talent that had come in and made an impact on the television rather than the same guys that they'd seen in kind of boring, lackluster stuff for the previous however long. And that's another reason Watts went for this, because even though Dusty was booking and Watts was in charge of the entire company, they hadn't done anything like this in a while. And Watts recognized it. And he knew they needed some fresh shit going on the television, which is what our plan was to do more of these type of things if that had lasted. But he didn't, so we didn't. But that's the way you make an interpromotional or outsider angle somewhat legitimate. And this was the first one they had done since Paulie and them came into TBS and fucking tackled us, which was, again, my angle, but that's when Dusty was booking and Dusty had approved it, so Dusty didn't mind doing my shit, baby.
Well, again, we will return to this next time. WCW Saturday Night, February 6, 1993.
And in the meantime, we're going to hunker down because bad weather's coming. It's a storm coming, Annie M. It's a storm coming. So until the drive-thru and next week on The Experience, and we're going to talk about the AEW pay-per-view on the drive-thru and all these other things, and they just keep going on. Thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.